Chapter 2560. At first, I couldn't figure it out, either. Since she's not even afraid of death, why is she still afraid of living? Xianxia suddenly frowned. That's because sometimes, living is scarier than dying. Wuxia was stunned. If that's the bad news, then what's the good news? Xianxia deliberately avoided this topic that would make one feel complicated. The dead were already gone, so she did not want to probe too much into it. Wuxia immediately reacted. A mysterious smile appeared on her face as she mischievously asked, "Guess what happened in the few days you weren't in the country?" "I'm asking you precisely because I don't know." Xianxia pushed her. "All right. Stop keeping me in suspense. Just tell me directly." "Sure. I'll tell you a piece of great news. Xianxia has been banned." Xianxia was not too surprised, but she was curious as to why she was banned. "What happened?" "A few days after you left the country, a website exposed Xianxia's shady dealings with the unspoken rules. Moreover, a video has been circulating on the website. Because of this video, Xianxia's name has been tarnished." The more Xianxia listened, the more incredulous she felt. She immediately urged, "Are you still keeping me in suspense? Don't keep me in suspense. What video is it?" "It's a video of Xianxia being raped. TSK. It's so explicit." It turned out that not long ago, Xianxia's bed photos and nude videos were circulating on the internet. The netizens who displayed their prowess took screenshots of the video and compared them with Xianxia's photo. They then identified the female lead in the bed photos and video as Xianxia herself. Xianxia had a beauty mole on the tip of her nose, and the female lead in the video had a black mole on her nose. The female lead in the bed photos was also quickly verified to be Xianxia herself. Other than Xianxia, a man also appeared in the bed photos. And this man's identity was quickly uncovered by the netizens. She was one of the executives of Ease, Jianghu. Some people in the entertainment media suspected that Xianxia had offended a big boss in the underworld and was kidnapped and drugged. The **** recorded a video and controlled Xianxia. Perhaps because Xianxia was restless, she angered the **** of the ****. Therefore, the video was posted on the internet and attracted netizens to read it. The name Xianxia had become a cancer in the entertainment industry. This incident quickly attracted the attention of the General Administration of China Radio and Television. They issued a document to completely ban Ease and Xianxia. They also launched an investigation on Ease and purged the higher-ups. This incident caused a huge uproar, but it was suppressed by the government in the end. When Wuxia first found out about this matter, she went to Jianghu's place to ask him about it. He then reprimanded her, "Work hard and don't poke your nose into things that have nothing to do with you." However, Jianghu's attitude just so happened to confirm her guess. "I'm guessing that Xianxia is behind all this." "How is that possible?" Chapter 2561. If Xianxia wants to deal with Xianxia, it's just a matter of a word. It's probably because Xianxia used Xianxia to create hype by hook or by crook that he was completely infuriated by her perverse behavior. That's why he didn't hesitate to use his family's resources in the entertainment industry to suppress Xianxia. Xianxia furrowed her brows thoughtfully. She found it hard to imagine that Xianxia, who was gentle and refined, would resort to such cruel means. However, Xianxia had indeed gone overboard, and she had been angered at one point. Sure. Don't you remember? In front of you, Xianxia promised to deal with Xianxia properly. Just as you left the country, Xianxia got into trouble. However, after Xianxia got into trouble, not a single netizen sympathized with her. After all, on the 7th day of Xianxia's death, Xianxia used her to hype herself up and completely offended the netizens. Without waiting for Xianxia to speak, Wuxia snorted again. "Serves her right. This Xianxia is unscrupulous in order to hype herself up. This can be considered a lesson for her." Xianxia casually said, "This person doesn't deserve any sympathy at all. She brought this upon herself. For the sake of fame, she did whatever it took. Now, retribution is here. Aya, let's not talk about this unlucky person anymore." Wuxia suddenly hugged her with a smile and asked excitedly, "How was it? Did the wedding photo shoot go smoothly?" Yes, it went very smoothly. Then, when are you going to announce your marriage to the media? Xianxia was puzzled. Why do we have to announce our marriage to the media? Don't you know? Wuxia asked in surprise. Usually, when celebrities get married, they have to announce their marriage to the media and the public. Firstly, such a happy event is naturally highly anticipated by the fans. Secondly, even if you don't announce it, the media will still try to find out. Since that's the case, why don't we just announce it directly? On the day of the wedding, we have to specially arrange seats for the media and invite them to report on the grand wedding. I don't seem to want to make such a big fuss. Xianxia added, it's better to keep a low profile for the wedding. Wuxia asked suspiciously, Sure, don't tell me you're thinking of getting married in secret? Can't I? Sure, you're so silly. Chairman Mu will definitely not agree. Xiaxia's face suddenly turned red. He did promise to give me a wedding of the century, but after thinking about it, isn't that a little inappropriate? What's wrong? For example, the public will accuse us of deliberately flaunting our wealth and holding such a big wedding. It's too extravagant. The keyboard warriors on the internet were very scary. Moral kidnapping was not uncommon. They would definitely accuse her of being heartless. She could even imagine the anger of the netizens. For example, an actress's wedding costs so much. For example, Xianxia marrying into a rich family in a high-profile manner and flaunting her wealth at the wedding. Just the thought of it was scary. You don't have to worry about this. Wuxia said. Just leave it to Jianghu to handle. As long as the public relations is in place and the media is given a sum of money, they'll definitely write in a direction that's favorable to you. Oh, Wuxia asked curiously. Has Chairman Mu already started planning the wedding? I don't know. Chapter 2562. Xianxia raised her hands in surrender. Wuxia, please spare me. I'm inexperienced and don't know what to prepare for a wedding. After all, this is my first time doing it. Wuxia's lips twitched. Oh dear. I'm so anxious. The eunuch is more anxious than the emperor. Go back and have a good discussion with Chairman Mu. Got it. At the studio, Xianxia was taking a nap in the lounge when someone knocked on the door. Come in. An assistant pushed the door open and walked in. Seeing him resting, he was startled. Mr. Gu, am I disturbing your rest? What's the matter? Oh, it's like this. The assistant came over and handed him a document. Xianxia's matter has been settled. From now on, her name will completely disappear from the public eye. Okay, got it. Xianxia suddenly opened his eyes. Where is she? Because the matter has blown up, the CCTV is investigating her. She's now under the CCTV's control. If the investigation proves to be serious, she'll probably be jailed for a period of time. Help me pass a message to the CCTV to deal with her severely. Yes, sir. The assistant immediately understood. Xianxia then closed his eyes again. Not daring to disturb him, the assistant hurriedly retreated. After the door closed, Xianxia suddenly opened his eyes again. A cold glint flashed in the depths of his eyes as he smirked. Xianxia? She's too inexperienced to fight with me. In the basement of the villa, hearing someone knocking on the door, Yunna got up and walked to the door. She opened the peephole and saw a woman standing outside. She immediately opened the door. As soon as the door was opened, the woman in a trench coat immediately entered, closed the door behind her, and locked it. Yunna sized up the woman and suddenly felt a little wary. Why are you here? Standing in front of her, the woman gracefully took off her hat and hung it on the side. She then turned around and saw Ji Yan's exquisite face. It hasn't been peaceful recently. You're not allowed to go anywhere except here, understand? Yunna's expression froze. What happened? Lu Jingtian's incident has blown up. The police are investigating this matter and are trying their best to find the culprit. Ji Yan paused for a moment and then said with a frown, I don't know what evidence the police have. In short, they've been conducting a lot of investigations recently, so don't show up for the time being. Hearing this, Yunna smiled disdainfully. Don't worry, the police definitely won't have any evidence related to me. Are you that confident? Of course. I'm a cautious person. I won't walk right into a trap. Ji Yan was taken aback, and her gaze could not help but fall on her hands. The fingerprints on all 10 fingers of the pair of hands were thoroughly erased using the method of burning and burning. At first, she was shocked when she saw the pair of hands. She remembered asking Yun Na, "What happened to your hands?" Yun Na replied, "In order to hide my identity, I burned all my fingerprints." Burn. Ji Yan was astonished. "How did you burn it?" "In the beginning, use a knife to cut it. Later, use an iron, tongs, and a flintlock." Ji Yan could not help but shudder when she heard that. How cruel. "Doesn't it hurt?" Yun Na gritted her teeth. "It doesn't hurt? How can it not hurt?" Chapter 2563. Yun Na raised her head, and her eyes suddenly became extremely cold. "Of course it hurts. But compared to the despair of being in hell, this little bit of pain is nothing." The reason she burned her fingerprints was to cover up her identity. Secondly, it was for revenge. Yes, she had been reborn, and the meaning of her life was revenge. Ji Yan's heart suddenly turned cold, and she felt even more terrified. The 10 fingers were connected to the heart, yet she burned her fingerprints. What a vicious and merciless woman. She was so ruthless to herself, let alone to others. This woman was definitely a dangerous person. However, the two of them were now in the same boat and were using each other. Yun Na was using her to get protection, and she was using Yun Na to get revenge. Yes, they had a common enemy. Xianxia. She was determined to eradicate this woman. Back then, she had a bright future ahead of her. However, because of a single mistake, she was caught red-handed and her bright future was destroyed just like that. She could not accept it. Especially when she saw how bright Xianxia was in the entertainment industry and how her career was thriving. Not only did the movie she starred in achieve a grand slam at the box office, but she also won an important award at the film festival. For a moment, she was in the limelight. She was jealous when she saw that. Therefore, she made up her mind to take back everything that originally belonged to her with her own hands. Ji Yan sat down on the bed and suddenly said, "Xianxia just returned to the country yesterday." She returned to the country? Yun Na looked a little surprised. Where did she go before? She told the crew that she was on leave. I didn't know where she was until she returned to the country. I happened to pass by her lounge and heard her and her assistant talking about the wedding photos. Ji Yan paused and said, "She probably went abroad to take wedding photos." Wedding photos? When Yun Na heard this, an extremely excited expression suddenly appeared on her face. Huh. Going abroad to take wedding photos is so glorious. How blissful. The smile on her face became even colder and more terrifying. It even had a hint of malevolence. Xianxia, laugh all you want. Be proud of yourself. The more blissful you are, the more despair you will feel once you are destroyed. Just thinking about crushing the person who was immersed in happiness with her own hands made Yun Na tremble with excitement. Filled with excitement, she actually let out a cold laugh. What are you laughing at? Ji Yan shuddered. Don't you think it's interesting? Yun Na suddenly sneered and turned around. She stared fixedly at her face and said with a ferocious expression, "Don't you think she's very glorious right now? She had a successful career and a happy family. Soon, she would be holding a grand wedding. The more blissful it is, the more excited I am. I'm really looking forward to seeing her expression when she sees me. When she died in my hands, what kind of expression did she have? Just imagining it made my blood boil. I'm really looking forward to it." You! Ji Yan looked at Yun Na, who was on the verge of going berserk, in shock. All right. Yun Na suddenly turned around and interrupted her. There's also that Yun Tianyu. That little B asterisk starred. Haha. Back then, he was the one who caused me to be like this. Sooner or later, I'll let him have a taste of being thrown into the ice-cold sea and being eaten by a school of fish. Chapter 2564. She fell into the sea and struggled desperately in the waves. The fishes surrounded her and gnawed at her skin. The excruciating pain was still unforgettable. All her hatred was concentrated on the name, Yun Tianyu. Sooner or later, she would strangle this little B asterisk star to death. No. Wouldn't it be letting him off easy by hurting him like this? She wanted to tie him up and throw him into the sea alive to let him have a taste of despair. Yun Na, don't show your face during this period, or else your identity will be easily exposed. Ji Yan reminded her repeatedly. Yun Na replied coldly. I know. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. It's good that you know what you're doing. With that, she stood up and walked toward the door. Yun Na suddenly called out, Yan Bingqing. Ji Yan turned around abruptly and glared at her coldly. Didn't I warn you not to call me by that name again? Yan Bingqing is dead, and I'm Ji Yan now. Don't mention that name again. However, the corners of Yun Na's lips twitched into a smile that was neither cold nor warm. Don't tell me that no one doubts your true identity when you return to the entertainment industry as Ji Yan? Hearing this, Ji Yan's lips curled into a cold smirk. So what if they suspect me? I've completely erased Yan Bingqing's identity. Even if they suspect me, they can't confirm my identity. She didn't suspect you either? Ji Yan naturally knew who the Shi Yun Na was referring to. Yun Shirshir? Ji Yan smiled nonchalantly and turned to look at her. When I first appeared on set, her expression when she saw me was obviously suspicious. What's wrong? Is there a problem? I must warn you, Yun Shirshir isn't scary. What's scary is the child behind her and Mu Yaja. Child. Ji Yan was stunned for a moment, but she quickly reacted as the image of Yun Tianyou's elegant and adorable face surfaced in her mind. Her lips curled into a cold smile, but her voice turned frosty in an instant. I'll be on my guard even if you don't remind me. This child is indeed not simple. Not only is he not simple, this child is even more capable than his father. He is much more powerful than you think. I've been trying my best to investigate this child's background, but I haven't had any leads. Can you help me investigate? I can't. Why? Ji Yan frowned. Because I can't figure out the child's origin, either. How laughable. A 7-year-old child could actually make people so fearful. If she hadn't seen his methods with her own eyes, it was really hard to imagine that the seemingly elegant and cute child actually had such a cold and ruthless side. Unbelievably, she had exhausted all means to investigate that child called Yun Tianyu, but to no avail. It was very scary. I'm guessing that this child has already suspected me through Yun Yeqing's incident. Yun Na paused for a moment and said, So, you have to be vigilant as well. Otherwise, the slightest carelessness would cause our efforts to go to waste. I understand. After saying that, she turned around and left the room. Yun Na went forward and locked the door from the inside. She then opened the peephole and warily watched Ji Yan's back as she left. Only then did she return to her bed. Chapter 2565. The filming of Extreme Youth was extremely arduous. The harshness of the director's team made all the actors complain, but Yun Shirshir didn't care. Compared to the harshness of the 2 gold medal directors, Lin Fengtian and Gu Xiaoyang, this crew was already extremely humane. Perhaps, especially after experiencing the torture of Lin Fengtian, she had completely adapted to such a fast-paced shooting. The relationship in the crew was relatively harmonious, perhaps because she was no longer the same as before. After all, when she was still a newcomer in the crew of the Green Apple and Lethal Beauty, most of the actors and even the staff in the crew were flattering and trampling on the weak, so they didn't like her. But now, things were different. With billions of box office sales, she was the best newcomer of the year, and her popularity was increasing day by day. Now, she had already jumped to the top of the list of popular young actresses. Now that Lethal Beauty was a hit, it also boosted her popularity. Therefore, most of the people in the crew were in awe of her. What surprised the staff even more was that although Yun Shirshir came from a high family and became famous in the entertainment industry with a single movie, she didn't put on any airs and was more amiable to everyone. She was completely unlike those actresses who were exposed overnight and acted like a big shot because of their popularity and didn't put others in their eyes. Therefore, the staff liked to get along with her. They were very harmonious. However, Yun Shirshir was more concerned about Ji Yan's mysterious identity. Rumors about Ji Yan were everywhere on the internet. Many netizens speculated that Ji Yan was Yan Bingqing, who had disappeared for a long time. Yan Bingqing disappeared from the public eye after the slapping scene in The Green Apple was exposed. After that, there was no news about her. Many people speculated that Yan Bingqing must have temporarily retired from the entertainment industry and later reappeared as a newcomer through plastic surgery to change her facial features. Her purpose was to cover up her dirty past. These were all the speculations of the netizens. However, when Yun Shirshir got close to Ji Yan, she was surprised to find that there were many differences between Ji Yan and Yan Bingqing. Yan Bingqing was extremely high profile. Relying on her status as an A-list actress, she acted like a big shot, bullied the staff, and even dared to openly challenge the director. Ji Yan, on the other hand, got along with every staff member, was polite and gentle. Xianxia had seen Ji Yan greeting a cleaning lady with a smile. This was something that Yan Bingqing couldn't do. However, when Xianxia recalled the little bits of her interactions with Yan, she could always find similarities between her and Yan. A person's appearance could be changed, but a person's voice. When she smiled, Xianxia's voice, Xia, and Xianxia's voice, Xia's and Xia's. There were several times when she was curious and wanted to find out the truth, but when she faced Ji Yan, she found her speculations to be laughable. What if it wasn't her? She questioned the real person after listening to the rumors on the internet. If the other party denied it, wouldn't the situation be very awkward? Maybe she deliberately made herself look like Yan Bingqing to gain popularity? So what if she's Yan Bingqing? Chapter 2566. Ji Yan was also very polite to her and never made things difficult for her. Moreover, whether Ji Yan was Yan Bingqing or not, what did it have to do with her? All she needed to do was act. Hence, Xianxia did not take the matter to heart. On this day, after she finished filming, she was about to pack up and go home when Ji Yan suddenly pushed open the door of her dressing room, walked up to her, and said with a smile, "Xia, have you finished filming your scenes?" Xianxia turned to look at her and nodded gently. "Yes." After a pause, she asked in confusion, "What's wrong? Is something the matter?" Ji Yan did not have many scenes with her when she was on set, so she did not deliberately get close to her and rarely spoke to her. Ji Yan said, "It may be a little presumptuous of me to say this, but it's my birthday today." "Today is my birthday. Are you willing to attend my birthday party? I know you're in a hurry to go home, but I've already invited the whole crew. If I miss you, I'm afraid there will be gossip among the crew." Xianxia was speechless. "Well, you know, in the production crew, sometimes the staff will talk behind my back. If you don't come to my birthday party, I'm worried that someone will spread the news that I don't get along with you. If the media catches wind of this, I don't know what kind of nonsense they'll write. If you're really in a hurry, you can go home early." Xianxia looked a little hesitant. Ji Yan's thoughtful words made it impossible for her to refuse. Indeed, if she did not show up, it was inevitable that someone with ulterior motives would make things difficult for her. Hence, she said softly, "I can attend, but your news came too suddenly. I didn't even know it's your birthday today, so I came empty-handed. I didn't even prepare a gift." "It's okay. Your presence is already the best gift I can give you." Ji Yan smiled, tilted her head and pouted. "I deliberately announced it at the last minute so that a bunch of people won't be in a hurry to prepare a gift and delay the filming. Actually, there's no need to prepare a gift. The crew has already ordered a cake. It's a party, so the more the merrier." Xianxia smiled. "Since you've said so, how can I refuse? What time is the party?" "We'll have to wait until the crew finishes filming today's episode." Ji Yan paused for a moment and thought for a while. Then she suddenly said, "How about you leave at 8? "Yes." Ji Yan was touched. "Thank you, Xia. I didn't expect you to be willing to come to my birthday party." "What are you saying? Then, you can arrange your own time first. I still have my scenes later, so I'll get to work first." Ji Yan bade her farewell and left. After she left the room, the smile on Xianxia's face gradually faded. It doesn't look like it. At such a close distance, she was completely different from the arrogant and spoiled Yan Bingqing in his impression. Perhaps, she was overthinking things? At 7 o'clock in the evening, the party started on time at a bar near the photography studio. With the exception of Xianxia, all the crew members were present. Ji Yan was so generous that she booked the entire second floor. When everyone arrived, they were about to start the party, but Ji Yan suddenly stood up and said mysteriously, "Wait a minute, there are still some people who haven't arrived yet." Everyone was curious. "Who is it?" Chapter 2567. The director said, "Ji Yan, I forgot to tell you that Xianxia will not be coming as soon as the shoot is over." "I know. I didn't expect him to show up anyway." Ji Yan smiled. "There's still a family member who hasn't arrived yet." "Family member? What family member?" Everyone looked at each other, then at the extremely ambiguous and shy expression on Ji Yan's face. All of a sudden, they understood what she meant by family members. Oh, Ji Yan, you have a boyfriend? That's shocking news. The assistant director slapped his thigh pretentiously. I didn't expect the beautiful Ji Yan to already be taken. Oh, it seems that I'm hopeless. Hua Jin suddenly leaned over to Yun Shishir's side and whispered, Don't tell me he's her sugar daddy. Yun Shishir raised her eyelids and nudged him with her elbow. Don't gossip. I'm just kidding, Hua Jin said, feeling wronged. Shishir, you're so serious and boring. Can't she have a proper boyfriend? Why are you siding with her? Are you stupid? Yun Shishir cursed inwardly. It was just that she did not pay much attention to Ji Yan and was not interested in her gossip. Hua Jin suddenly said, Say, what kind of mentality do you think a man has when he's still with his woman when he knows that she's a sugar daddy? Yun Shishir said matter-of-factly, Of course he's obviously toying with her. Bingo! Hua Jin snapped his fingers. I'm looking forward to seeing who Ji Yan's boyfriend is. We'll see it soon. Hua Jin was a little excited. Let's wait and see. Yun Shishir rubbed her forehead. When did this guy become so nosy? At 7:15 p.m. Ji Yan looked at the time and hurriedly walked to the side to make a phone call. Half a minute later she came back excitedly and said shyly, He said he's already at the entrance of the bar. Oh! Everyone cheered. One of the female celebrities teased, Look at how excited Ji Yan is. Her face is all red. Ji Yan, you have to be merciful today. There are a lot of single dogs in the crew, so don't spread too much dog food. I've been eating too much dog food recently. I'm a little full. The crowd burst into laughter again. Ji Yan asked shyly, What? Don't worry, I'll try not to show off my love today. Yes, that's right. The director nodded. Even if you want to show off your love, you have to wait until you enter the hotel. The crowd booed. Director, don't be so explicit. Exactly. Ji Yan will be shy. However, the director didn't think much of it. We're all adults. There's no harm in speaking with a little color. Everyone laughed again. Amidst the laughter someone suddenly shouted, There's a man walking down the stairs. He's so handsome. Ji Yan, is that your boyfriend? Ji Yan turned around at once, and when she saw who it was, she blushed and went up to greet him. Out of curiosity, Yun Shishir also looked in the direction Ji Yan ran to, only to be stunned by what she saw. The man was dressed casually. Although it was not very formal, he had handsome facial features and a good temperament, giving him a unique demeanor. Chapter 2568. The reason why she was so surprised was that the man was none other than Gao Nan. Gao Nan, Xiao Shue's boyfriend. A question popped up in her mind. Did he break up with her? That can't be, right? Ever since Xiao Shue fell in love, she transformed from a careless girl into a shy woman. She was so immersed in love that she rarely pestered her like before. Even when they occasionally communicated on WeChat, it was all about Gao Nan. There was no doubt that Xiao Shue had fallen in love, which made Yun Shishir feel a little complicated. She had tried to persuade her friend by beating around the bush and telling her to see a man's true colors and not give him her heart easily. Otherwise, she would be in great pain if she was betrayed. However, Xiao Shue complained about her and even spoke up for Gao Nan, praising him for being considerate and gentle and being a good boyfriend that was hard to come by. Yun Shishir could only give up, thinking that Gao Nan had toned down a lot after the class reunion. However, there was a saying that a dog could not change its spots. Some time ago, Xiao Shue chatted with her on WeChat about the progress of her relationship with Gao Nan. She shyly said that the two had met each other's parents and were satisfied with each other. If there were no accidents, they would hold their wedding next year. It would take more than 10 days. Now, Gao Nan is attending a private party as Ji Yan's boyfriend. What is Xiao Shue then? Don't tell me that he has already broken up with her? Judging from how intimate they are, the two must have been dating for some time. Then, has this guy betrayed Xiao Shue and cheated on her? With countless thoughts running through her mind, Yun Shishir felt a little uneasy. She suddenly realized that this matter had become very tricky. She stared at Gao Nan in disbelief, hoping that it was just a coincidence. However, when Ji Yan ran to his side and held his arm intimately, Xianxia could no longer sit still. She clenched her fists and breathed heavily. If not for her excellent self-control, she would have already stood up, rushed up, and slapped Gao Nan's face. Hua Jin sensed that there was something wrong with her aura and looked at her suspiciously. Xianxia, what's wrong with you? Xianxia didn't have time to respond to him. She immediately took out her phone. After thinking about it, she found Xiao Shui on WeChat and sent her a message. How have you been? How are you and your boyfriend doing? She did not go straight to the point and say that she had seen Gao Nan with another woman. After all, she needed to clarify their relationship first. What if they broke up? Hence, it was not strange for him to find a new lover. Xiao Shui didn't reply immediately. Xianxia suddenly became nervous. Could it be that they really broke up? At this point, Ji Yan had already walked over with her boyfriend's arm. When they were in front of everyone, she introduced him with a smile. Let me introduce you to my boyfriend, Gao Nan. We've been dating for 2 months. 2 months. A month ago, Xiao Shui excitedly told her on WeChat that she and Gao Nan had met his parents, but this guy was already with Ji Yan at that time. What is this? Ji Yan was his girlfriend, and he even appeared here as her boyfriend. How dignified. What about Xiao Shui then? Chapter 2569. What does he take Xiao Shui for? Xianxia could not help feeling furious. She raised her head and glared fiercely at Gao Nan. The latter also seemed to have sensed a sharp gaze coming from a certain corner. He could not help but look in the direction of the gaze. When he saw that it was her, his face was also stunned for a moment. He did not expect that she would also appear in such an occasion. His entire body was stunned. Hua Jin saw that Xianxia's expression was a little off, so he immediately hugged her shoulders gently. Xianxia, what's wrong? Only then did Xianxia realize that she could not show her emotions in front of everyone. Some things must be resolved in private. Hence, she immediately restrained her expression. Gao Nan stared at her intently and suddenly understood why she was angry at him. He curled his lips into a heartless smile and said to Ji Yan, Ji Yan, let's introduce everyone. Ji Yan immediately introduced everyone enthusiastically. When it came to Xianxia, Ji Yan took Gao Nan's arm and walked to him. Gao Nan, this is Xianxia, Xianxia. You should know her, right? Her role in The Green Apple created a phenomenon at the box office. Xianxia is also a big star now, isn't she? Gao Nan gave a fake smile and nodded slightly. Yes, I know her. I've even watched her movie. With Xiao Shui. Back then, when Xiao Shui pestered him to watch The Green Apple, he complained for a while. He did not like to watch melodramatic romance dramas, but he accompanied her to the cinema because he wanted to take care of her. He did not expect that it would be a movie starring Xianxia. Xianxia, this is Gao Nan, my boyfriend. Xianxia raised an eyebrow and tried to restrain her anger. So, you're Ji Yan's boyfriend? You've been dating for 2 months? Yes, that's right. Ji Yan did not sense the strangeness in the conversation at all. She happily snuggled up to his shoulder and smiled. We met at a bar. Bar? What a great place to hunt for beauties. All of a sudden, Xianxia felt a little breathless and her heart was a little stuffy. She glanced at Ji Yan and Gao Nan before gritting her teeth and smiling. I wish you all the best. Ji Yan, your boyfriend is very handsome. The noise of the bar muffled her angry gnashing of her teeth. All he heard was a blessing. Ji Yan blushed and said, Xianxia, thank you. From the beginning to the end, Gao Nan stared at her without batting an eyelid. Suddenly, a meaningful smile appeared on his face, and he turned his head away. Ji Yan then took his arm and introduced him to the rest of the crew one by one. After Gao Nan arrived, the party officially began. Ji Yan did not specifically introduce Gao Nan's noble identity, but everyone in the crew was perceptive enough to know that he came from a prestigious family just by looking at his extraordinary aura. As the party began, a few bottles of imported wine were opened. Accompanied by the loud music in the bar, the atmosphere suddenly reached its climax. Amidst the applause, Xianxia vaguely sensed a pair of eyes on her. She looked up and happened to meet Gao Nan's scrutinizing gaze. Chapter 2570. Under the crowd's instigation, Xianxia was dragged to play Civ. She repeatedly refused, saying that she was allergic to alcohol, but the crowd did not buy it. You play. Your assistant will drink on your behalf. Ha! She felt that she had been unjustly implicated, but due to the situation, she could only bite the bullet and accept it. She then pitifully told Xianxia, "Sure, you must take it easy. I can't hold my liquor well either." Hua Jin could not help but snicker. Xianxia nodded. However, with Gao Nan around, she was not in the mood to play. Her mind was not on the game at all, and her thoughts were wandering. In one round, she caused her assistant to drink more than 3 glasses of wine and a few glasses of beer. The assistant's face turned red from drinking. She waved her hand and told her that she could not continue. If she drank any more, she would surely get drunk. Xiaxia's heart ached and she immediately said, "I really don't know how to play. Why don't I not participate in your game? If I insist on playing, a dabbler like me will only spoil your fun." Only then did the crowd give up and stop forcing her to play. Gao Nan, on the other hand, displayed his extraordinary skills and alcohol tolerance in the game, which made everyone gasp in admiration. Xianxia looked at him silently. Just then, her phone vibrated. She took it out and saw that Xiao Shui had replied to her message. "Very good. What's wrong?" A few seconds later, she sent another message. "Eh? You rarely ask about him. What's wrong?" Looking at her friend's reply, Xianxia gripped her phone tightly and looked at Gao Nan again. She saw that he seemed to have guessed who she was texting, for a smug and cold smile appeared on his face. In her eyes, such a smile was extremely detestable. Under her cold gaze, Ji Yan, who was beside Gao Nan, suddenly lost. After drinking a glass of wine, she threw herself into Gao Nan's arms and acted coquettishly. In front of her and everyone else, Gao Nan kissed her hard on the lips, but his gaze remained on her from beginning to end. It was like an arrogant show-off, but also a silent provocation. Xianxia was so angry that her whole body stiffened. Hua Jin, who was also very sharp, immediately sensed the confusing atmosphere between the two. He glanced at her, only to see her glaring daggers at the man. He then looked at the man, who was also looking at her nonchalantly. He tugged at Xiaxia's sleeve and asked curiously, "Xiaxia, what's wrong? You know him?" "Not only know him." Xiaxia gritted her teeth in reply. Hua Jin was about to continue his questioning when Mu Shi, who was standing at the side, suddenly stood up and covered her mouth. Xiaxia's attention returned to her as she hurriedly stood up. "Do you want to throw up?" Mu Shi covered her mouth and did not speak, nodding her head with a disheveled expression. "I'll take you to the bathroom." Xiaxia hugged her shoulder and led her to the washroom. Once they reached the washroom, Mu Shi rushed in. Xiaxia stood outside the door and did not enter. She had a hunch that the man would come looking for her, so she decided to wait outside the washroom. Sure enough, half a minute later, Gao Nan appeared behind her. "I didn't expect to see you here today. How rare." His frivolous opening was very much in line with his style. Xiaxia turned around abruptly and glared at him. She sneered. "Is Ji Yan really your girlfriend?" "It's as you've seen," he said airily. Without any hypocritical denial or superfluous explanation, he directly admitted the truth. B****. Chapter 2571. Xiaxia was agitated at once. Feeling indignant for her friend, she asked angrily, "What about Xiao Shui then? Who does she think she is?" Gao Nan spoke again, but this time, it was an extremely cold word. "Girlfriend." Xiaxia was stunned in disbelief when she heard that. Then, she laughed in anger. "Girlfriend. You're really something, Gao Nan. You have 2 girlfriends. Does Xiao Shui know about this? Are you feeling indignant for her?" Gao Nan raised a brow with a nonchalant look, as if this matter was not worth any surprise or doubt. Instead, it was a matter of course. Xiaxia continued. "Xiao Shui is deeply in love with you. She's been immersed in her love with you all this while. So, is this how you repay her feelings?" Gao Nan laughed. "I'll marry her." "What?" "Marrying her is the best way to repay her feelings." As he said that, his lips curled into a mocking smile. "She doesn't know about this, but it doesn't matter even if she does." After a pause, he looked at her and asked, "If you intend to tell her about this, I don't mind. I'm looking forward to seeing her expression when she learns about this. Hee hee. It's quite interesting just thinking about it." Be asterisk starred. Xianxia could not control her anger. She took a step forward and raised her hand at him. Gao Nan quickly grabbed her wrist and pulled her into his embrace. His other hand pinched her waist suggestively. Xianxia struggled angrily, but she could not break free from his grip due to the difference in their physical strength. Why are you so angry? Gao Nan was puzzled. Those who don't know the situation will think that you're jealous of me. Shameless. Xianxia struggled again and gritted her teeth. If you don't love her, why did you marry her? Marriage has nothing to do with love. Gao Nan recounted the truth expressionlessly. As long as my parents are satisfied, I can marry any woman, but no matter who she is, she has no right to interfere with my private life. Xiaoshui is no exception. Gao Nan, I want you to break up with her. Xianxia ordered word by word. Why? Because I won't allow you to trample on her feelings. I won't allow you to let her down and play with her. The man chuckled as if mocking her naivety and sighed. Sisterly love is really deep. I'm almost touched by you. Let go. No. The man smiled wickedly. Look carefully. You're the one who threw yourself into my arms. You're really shameless. Well said. Instead, the man laughed and grabbed her chin to enjoy the anger on her face. Do you know how cute you look when you're angry? Especially the look in your eyes. It's so seductive. He enjoyed the anger on her face. Her pair of willowy eyebrows were furrowed into an extremely elegant angle due to her anger, exuding an indescribable sense of beauty. I'm warning you for the last time. Let go. Xiaoxia's expression was frosty. Gao Nan was suddenly attracted by the resplendent ring on her hand. He could not help but look over and was surprised to see a diamond ring on her ring finger. You're engaged. Chapter 2572. Xiaoxia glared at him without saying a word. Oh, I remember now. Didn't the Mu group issue an announcement some time ago? Mu Yaja was banished by the Mu family, and his position was taken over by someone else. Hee. Xiaoxia, has your dream of marrying into a wealthy family been completely shattered? Gao Nan usually did not pay attention to the happenings in the business world, but he was aware that Mu Yanqing had taken over the CEO's position. Hence, he was gloating over the latter's misfortune. Mu Yaja was such a proud man, but after this incident, he suddenly fell from the top to the bottom. He was probably smashed to pieces. He did not expect to meet him again at such an occasion. Gao Nan felt that this was probably a godsend. He had been coveting this woman for a long time and had always wanted to befriend her. However, his uncle had previously warned him that the Mu family was a very scary existence and that he should not have any thoughts about Mu Yaja's woman. Therefore, he restrained his ambition and didn't place too much hope on her. However, now that Mu Yaja had lost his power, this was probably the best opportunity, right? Hence, when he was sizing her up at the party earlier, he was silently thinking about how to make his move. Even though he was hugging and kissing another woman, at that time, only he knew in his heart what he really wanted. What was his ambition? Gao Nan was a standard hedonistic son. He was indifferent to his career, but he was an insufferably arrogant prodigal when it came to love. Whenever he fancied a woman, he would pounce on her like a cheetah and make her his. Almost no woman could escape from his clutches. Xiaoxia was the first exception. However, this exception did not make him wait for too long. Was this not an opportunity? Seeing the prey he had coveted for so long throwing herself into his arms, he was extremely pleased. Gao Nan suddenly approached her. His gaze landed on her delicate and alluring lips, and the ambition in his eyes could no longer be concealed. Xiaoxia felt disgusted at the sight of him and tried to resist, but his grip was so strong that she could not break free at all. Let go! Xiaoxia, you can't run away. Mu Yaja has lost his power, so it's my turn to take over. The man's eyes were as ferocious as a wild beast's. I want you. Don't even think about it. Xiaoxia sneered. I will tell Xiaoshui about your evil deeds. I'll make her open her eyes and see that you're a complete bastard. Okay. Let's wait and see. Anyway, I'm already tired of her. If it weren't for her fantasizing about marrying me all day long, do you think I would want to marry her? You. Xiaoxia fumed. Gao Nan, don't go too far. How can you bear to hurt Xiaoshui? Since you don't love her, then please don't hurt her. This is the first time Xiao Shui has fallen into such a deep relationship. You bastard. You will suffer retribution.
Haha.
Retribution.
You're so naive to believe in retribution, though.
Xianxia, you're too naive.
Then, I'll have to trouble you to quickly get her to leave me and stop pestering me.
Otherwise, I'll be troubled too. Do you really think I like her? I'm just playing around. Who would like a chaste woman? What do you mean? Chapter 2573. What do you mean? We've been together for so long, but apart from holding hands and kissing, she's never taken things further with me. You're telling me that this is love.
What day and age are we living in?
She's still insisting on not having sex before marriage.
As if struck by lightning, Xianxia was thoroughly enraged.
That's because she cares about you too much and doesn't want to be looked down upon, so she's doing this. You're too disgusting.
The man laughed.
Well then, I'm going to do something even more disgusting next. With that, he pulled her into his arms and tried to kiss her. Xianxia struggled repeatedly, kicking and kicking him.
Then, they vaguely heard the sound of hurried footsteps approaching.
Immediately after, they heard Hua Jin's angry bellow. ****.
Let go of her.
Hearing the voice, Gao Nan could not help but turn his head vigilantly.
However, before he could react, Hua Jin's fist had already landed on his face.
Bang!
A loud sound was heard.
Gao Nan was sent flying against the wall. The impact was so strong that Xianxia was also affected and fell to the ground. When Hua Jin saw this, he quickly rushed over, hugged her, and helped her up. The two turned to look at Gao Nan, who was leaning against the wall and gently wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth. Hua Jin's punch had actually broken the corner of his lip. Gao Nan spat a mouthful of blood on the ground and then rushed over to throw a punch at him. Hua Jin could have dodged the punch, but he suddenly realized that if he did, he would implicate the person behind him. Gritting his teeth, he took the punch and pushed Xianxia aside. Be careful,
Gao Nan scolded. Who do you think you are?
How dare you hit me? Hua Jin glared at him furiously. Earlier, when he saw Xianxia leaving with Mu Xi in her arms, Gao Nan followed them. After sitting there for a while, seeing that Xianxia did not return after a long time, he got worried and followed her. However, when he saw the scene of Gao Nan pestering Xianxia, just the thought of his restless hands roaming all over her body made him furious. ****. Fury flashed in Hua Jin's eyes as he charged forward again. A ferocious fist landed on the man's face, knocking out one of his teeth in an instant. Ugh! Gao Nan groaned in pain. Without caring about his injury, he started fighting with Hua Jin. Although Hua Jin was a typical slender teenager, Gao Nan, on the other hand, was obviously well-trained. His casual shirt tightened as he moved, vaguely revealing his muscular muscles. Hua Jin, on the other hand, was clearly unafraid of the man's anger. Glaring at the latter, he could not conceal his murderous aura and completely released it. Meanwhile, Gao Nan's body tensed up as his face darkened. His expression clearly indicated that he was serious this time. Worried, Xianxia stopped them. Stop fighting! Before she could finish her words, the two men started fighting again. Gao Nan pounced on Hua Jin like a vicious wolf. Hua Jin sneered and raised his leg to kick him. Gao Nan nimbly dodged the attack and punched him in the face. Hua Jin took a step back and, as if he did not feel pain, wiped the blood from the corner of his lips. He stuck out the tip of his tongue and gently curled his lips into a smile. Then, he raised his leg and kicked him in the chest. Chapter 2574. The two men did not use any special moves, but every punch and kick they threw was obviously very powerful. They were swift and fierce, like a tiger eyeing its prey. It was precisely such unorganized punches that were full of murderous intent. However, as the situation progressed, Gao Nan gradually lost his strength. Perhaps it was because Hua Jin's attacks were too ferocious, but Hua Jin had the upper hand despite the two men's equal strength. When a person was enraged to the extreme, they would unleash their greatest potential. Hua Jin looked weak, but his skills were not as weak as he looked. Instead, his moves were ruthless, his eyes bloodshot, and his expression provocative. Their punches were so fast that Xianxia, who was watching from the side, was dazzled. Then, she saw Hua Jin sweep Gao Nan to the ground with a cool kick. He immediately stepped forward and stomped on Gao Nan's chest. Accompanied by the whistling wind, his fist smashed on Gao Nan's face. He did not care that such a murderous move could cripple someone. Xianxia hurried forward and hugged him from behind, refusing to let go. Hua Jin, stop fighting. Stop fighting. Hua Jin's eyes were red. Even when Xianxia stopped him, he continued to kick Gao Nan. Mu Shi, who had just come out of the washroom, screamed in fright when she saw this scene. The waiter, who had heard the unusual commotion, immediately rushed over and stopped the fight when he saw it. Stop fighting. Stop fighting. Soon, the accident alarmed the crew. Ji Yan and several other crew members rushed over and were shocked to see this scene. What are you doing? Ji Yan's face turned pale when she saw Gao Nan lying on the ground.
She immediately went forward and helped him up, only to see that his lips were broken and the corners of his eyes were bruised.
There were also messy black footprints on his snow-white casual shirt. She quickly understood what had happened and turned to look at Hua Jin and Xianxia. Hua Jin was not much better. His face was a little disfigured, but he was better off than Gao Nan. His lips were broken, but his body was also in a mess.
You good for nothing.
Hua Jin spat at Gao Nan.
As a man, I'm ashamed of you.
You're so strong, but you bullied a weak woman. What is this called? This is sexual harassment. Gao Nan, is this all you've got? You can only bully women. You don't deserve to be a man. Gao Nan looked up, his eyes flashing fiercely. What did you say? I said, you don't deserve to be a man. After saying that, Hua Jin smiled wickedly and taunted. Did you reincarnate into the wrong body? Feeling humiliated, Gao Nan was about to charge at him with a furious face. Seeing that he was about to rush up again, Xianxia subconsciously stood in front of Hua Jin. Hua Jin was stunned.
His eyes flickered a little as he looked at the thin and weak figure in front of him.
A group of people immediately stopped Gao Nan, who was about to lose his mind. Ji Yan quickly stopped him.
Gao Nan,
don't mess around. I'm messing around.
Gao Nan was furious.
It's this gigolo who attacked me indiscriminately. Ji Yan was a little surprised and looked at Hua Jin. Everyone also looked at Hua Jin suspiciously.
Under their questioning gazes, Hua Jin sneered and said coldly, Why did I attack you?
Wasn't it all because you took liberties with Xianxia? Everyone, take a good look at this guy's disgusting face. Chapter 2575.
That's enough. Unable to bear it any longer, Ji Yan said with a pale face. Stop talking.
I don't know why you two got into a fight, but what if it's a misunderstanding? The most important thing right now is to treat your wounds first. What if you hurt your tendons and bones? Just as he was about to retort, Ji Yan quickly cut him off. Don't go overboard, Gao Nan. Just give me some face, okay? I'll take you to the hospital now to treat your wounds.
Everyone was so scared that they dared not even breathe loudly as they sized up the two men with different expressions.
Gao Nan clenched his teeth tightly and glared fiercely at Hua Jin before turning to look at Ji Yan, who had a pleading look on her face. After taking a deep breath for a while, he squatted down, picked up his phone and jacket that had fallen on the floor, and turned to leave. Ji Yan immediately reached out to help him, but he was so angry that he shook her off and said fiercely, Don't touch me.
Ji Yan bit her lip aggrievedly and was stunned for a moment.
She then turned to look at Xianxia and Hua Jin and said, I'll leave Hua Jin in your care. With that, she hurried to catch up with the man. Unable to quell her anger, Xianxia glared at the man until she saw Ji Yan pulling him out of the corridor. Only then did she retract her gaze.
Xianxia, what's going on?
Asked the director worriedly. It's nothing. I just met a jerk. A staff member immediately asked with concern, what Hua Jin said just now. Was it Gao Nan who got physical with you? Xianxia did not say anything. Feeling embarrassed, she lowered her head with reddened eyes like a child who had done something wrong. Hua Jin glanced at her and reached out to gently stroke her head. It's okay now, okay? Don't be afraid. I'll protect you. He gently pulled Xianxia into his arms and comforted her. Xianxia, however, felt increasingly guilty. Hua Jin was covered in wounds because of her. Yet he didn't care about his injuries at all and only cared about comforting her. He blamed himself to no end. Now that things had come to this point, the so-called birthday party would end on a sour note. Xianxia wanted to send Hua Jin to the hospital, but Hua Jin insisted.
It's just a small injury. Leaving the bar, Hua Jin casually wiped the corner of his lips and stretched out his tongue to trace the blood. He clicked his tongue and said, "That bastard is really ruthless." After saying that, he looked at her nervously and asked worriedly, "Sure, is my mouth badly damaged?" Sure was both angry and amused. At this point, what he cared about the most was whether or not she was disfigured. "It's not very serious, but, to be cautious, do you want to get stitches?" "There's no need for that, right?" Hua Jin touched it suspiciously. "There's no need for stitches. It won't leave a scar. Stitching is making a mountain out of a molehill." "Then what about your body?" "The bones aren't broken." "How do you know it's not broken?" Sure was annoyed. "What if it's broken?" "I know whether it's broken or not." Hua Jin casually said, "I used to get injured often, so I'm used to it. As long as it's not disfigured." With that, he pretended to be relaxed and joked, "If it's disfigured, I'll cry. I'm so pretty. Wouldn't it be a pity if I'm disfigured?" Chapter 2576. Did this guy get hurt often in the past? Why was it that getting hurt was such a normal thing in his eyes? Hua Jin sensed that something was wrong with her. When he turned around, he saw that she was trying her best to hold back her tears. He couldn't help but feel a little flustered. He walked up to her and bent over slightly. Gazing at her face, he said in a fluster, "What's wrong? Did I say something that made you angry?" "Don't cry." He frantically wiped away her tears. However, Sure slapped his hand away and stared at him with tears in her eyes. "Idiot." Hua Jin was confused. "Idiot? Big idiot." Hua Jin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. His face revealed a doting yet helpless smile. "What's wrong? Is it worth it to get hurt all over your body?" She sized him up and saw that his snow-white shirt was in a mess. There were bloodstains, black shoe prints, and his cuffs were torn. Instantly, she felt so sad that she couldn't control herself. When Hua Jin heard that, he couldn't help but stare blankly. He silently sized her up for a while. His lips curled into a flirtatious arc as he said plainly, "Why wouldn't it be worth it?" Sure was taken aback. "I said before that I'll protect you." Hua Jin's clumsy expression made Sure smile through her tears, but her tears fell even faster. "What kind of protection is this? If you hurt yourself, my heart will ache." "My heart will ache." When Hua Jin heard that, even his heart stopped beating for a few seconds. He was stunned for a long time. Suddenly, there was a bashful and coy expression on his face. He pretended to play it down as he said, "Will your heart really ache?" Sure nodded heavily. "All right. I know." Hua Jin tried his best to pacify her. "In the future, I won't be so rash. It's just words. You'll be so rash next time." Hua Jin pouted helplessly. "Who asked me to be unable to control myself when it comes to such matters?" Sure couldn't help flicking his forehead. "Ah." Hua Jin frowned in pain. "It hurts." "Sure, you're so cruel. I'm already injured like this." "You also know that you're seriously injured." Sure immediately said, "I'll take you home." "Okay. Do you have a first aid kit at home?" "On standby." Sure felt as if her heart had been pricked by a needle. She said, "All right, I'll help you treat your wound. Actually, I can do it myself." "You are not allowed to say no." His tone was unyielding, leaving no room for discussion. Hua Jin could not help but feel a trace of warmth in his heart as he quietly said, "Okay." As Sure had already called Mu Yaja earlier to inform him that she might be late due to an event with the film crew, she did not call to inform him. She drove Hua Jin home. This was the first time she saw the place he was renting. It was a small district away from the city center. It was a simple one-bedroom apartment. It was so small that it even felt cramped. When she walked into the bedroom, she did not even know where to stand. Seeing this, Hua Jin said awkwardly, Based on my ability, this is probably the only place I can afford to rent." "How much is the rent per month?" "About 7,000. So expensive." It's more expensive in the city center. You should still have some savings left." Hua Jin coughed awkwardly. "Usually at the airport, when I'm filming,
I have to pay attention to my appearance, so I spent quite a lot on my outfit. Indeed. Chapter 2577. Celebrities were after fashion. If they wore the same outfit twice in front of the camera, it would be degrading. The medical kit was placed in a very conspicuous position beside the television as there was no more storage space. Xianxia took the medical kit to the bed and opened it. There were all kinds of medicine for wounds. She took out the disinfectant and said to Huajin, "Don't move. Be gentle." "I'm afraid of pain," Huajin reminded her again. "You're afraid of pain and you're still fighting?" "Fighting doesn't hurt." Xianxia disagreed. "Don't you feel pain when your bones are broken?" "I didn't feel anything at that time." "So you didn't go to the hospital because you're afraid of pain?" Huajin looked away awkwardly and said vaguely, I guess so." "Don't move. Let me treat your wound." Xianxia dipped a cotton swab in the disinfectant and carefully applied it to the wound at the corner of his lips. Huajin instantly hissed in pain. "It hurts." Didn't I tell you not to move?" "I didn't move." Huajin felt wronged. "Can't I just snort a little?" "No. Bear with it." Huajin's face instantly showed an expression as if he was facing death calmly. Xianxia did not know whether to laugh or cry. "I'm the one who's applying medicine for you. I'm not holding a knife to your neck." "It's very painful, okay?" Huajin acted like a spoiled child. "When I apply the disinfectant, it feels like there are countless little bugs biting inside." "So you're so delicate?" Xianxia asked curiously. "So how did you apply medicine in the past?" "I did it myself." "Doesn't it hurt?" Huajin suddenly stopped talking. He was indeed afraid of pain, but it was not that exaggerated. It was rare for someone to care about him and personally apply medicine for him. He actually acted like a spoiled child in front of her. Perhaps it was because he had always been a lonely person. Even if he was in pain or tired, he could only curl up in a corner and lick his wounds alone. However, he was not like that anymore. Someone cared about him. He felt warmth in his heart and couldn't help but want to rely on her a little more. Perhaps he was greedy for thinking this way, but he couldn't help but lust for her gentleness. Xianxia continued to apply the medicine for him. Huajin just watched her quietly. From the beginning to the end, she was extremely focused. She carefully applied the medicine for him with a cautious expression, afraid that she would accidentally hurt him. Looking at her solemn expression, Huajin wanted to laugh. He raised the corners of his lips slightly, but accidentally pulled on his wound, causing him to suck in a breath of cold air. Xianxia could not help but say, "Why are you laughing so foolishly?" "It's nothing." Huajin's face was strangely red as he brushed it off. Huajin held back his laughter and looked at her quietly. Unknowingly, his gaze became a little infatuated. Looking at her up close, she was really beautiful. Her facial features were exquisite and her skin was fair. She was like a beautiful porcelain doll. "Done." Xianxia snapped her fingers and Huajin finally came back to his senses. "What are you thinking about? You're in a daze." "Nothing." Huajin said honestly, "It's the first time someone applied medicine for me. I felt a little shy." "You also have times when you feel shy?" Xianxia took a look at his body and said, "Take off your shirt. I'll check if you have any injuries." Huajin instantly shook his head. "There's no need for that, right? I saw that he punched your back a lot." "I'm fine." Huajin. Chapter 2578. Huajin was silent for a while. Suddenly, he reached out to the buttons on his shirt and unbuttoned them gently. He grunted. "I choose the second option." As he spoke, he unbuttoned his shirt one by one and slowly pulled it down to his shoulders. She looked at his back and sucked in a breath of cold air. Your back." Huajin closed his eyes helplessly. "My back must be very ugly." Xianxia was stunned and didn't say anything. She saw that there were many old scars on Huajin's fair back. Some of the scars were extremely glaring against his fair skin. She clenched her fists and felt a little suffocated. She suddenly reached out and touched one of the scars gently. "What's this?" she asked. "Where?" "It looks like a burn." "This is a cigarette scar." "Cigarette scar?" Xianxia's heart skipped a beat. "You burned yourself?" Huajin furrowed his eyebrows. His voice suddenly became a little low. I'm not so cruel as to torture myself.
Then, Xianxia's voice suddenly stopped. She suddenly recalled the past that Hua Jin had told her. She vaguely remembered that before Hua Jin debuted, he had been... She sucked in a breath of cold air and roughly guessed where these scars came from.
Hua Jin suddenly became more embarrassed. He hurriedly lifted his shirt. Stop looking. Wait. Xianxia stopped him. Suddenly, she touched another long scar. What about this one?
I'm not sure.
These are all old scars. Some were from whips and some were from knives. There are also scars from bone fractures.
Hua Jin narrated calmly as if he had nothing to do with it.
These scars have already healed. Xianxia couldn't take it anymore. She turned his shoulders. Her eyes were red because of anger. Why did they torture you like this?
Hua Jin looked at her in a daze.
Suddenly, he smiled helplessly. I don't know. Maybe it's because they were happy?
Happy. Hua Jin paused for a moment.
Those scars were from the boss because I was disobedient.
Hua Jin forced a smile and gently wiped away the traces at the corner of her eyes.
Why are you crying again? Why do you like to cry so much? Xianxia stared into his eyes.
Because they tortured you for fun?
At that time, I was young and naive. They thought that it was interesting when I cried, so they used all methods just to see me cry.
After a pause, Hua Jin smirked.
Is it that unbelievable? Isn't it a ridiculous reason? Xianxia finally couldn't take it anymore. She hugged him with heartache. Hot tears fell on his body. The anger and heartache in her heart couldn't be contained. Hua Jin. Xianxia choked with sobs. I'm sorry. She didn't know why she was apologizing. Was it because of Hua Jin's injuries? Or was it because she had looked down on him in the past, treated him coldly, and avoided him like he was a snake or scorpion? Hua Jin was at a loss. Perhaps it was because of her tears, or her emotional hug, which made him nervous and uneasy. It was also because of her continuous sorry that made him confused. Don't cry. It's all in the past. I'm sorry. Sure. Chapter 2579. Xianxia bit her lip as tears streamed down her cheeks. Hua Jin couldn't bear to see her tears, so he hurriedly wiped them away. Seeing her crying so pitifully, the wounds on his back seemed to be throbbing again. It's already over. Hua Jin held her face gently and smiled. Don't cry, okay? I'm scared of you.
If I had known earlier, I would have gone to the hospital rather than let you apply medicine for me.
Xianxia pursed her lips and said with reddened eyes, Hua Jin, thank you. Upon hearing that, Hua Jin's dark eyes turned playfully. Then, he raised the corners of his eyes and smiled devilishly. However, he asked expectantly, Then, is there any reward for thanking me? What reward do you want? Xianxia asked seriously. Hua Jin pretended to be deep in thought for a while. Then, he raised his face proudly and tapped his face with his slender fingers. He said casually, If you must thank me, why don't you give me a kiss?
Xianxia glared at him coquettishly. Hua Jin saw that she seemed to be resisting and immediately said, Don't misunderstand.
I didn't mean anything by it.
I was just teasing you.
Before he could finish his sentence, Xianxia suddenly leaned forward and kissed him gently on the cheek. Hua Jin was instantly stunned and his whole body was as stiff as a rock. Xianxia blushed and said, Are you satisfied? Hua Jin still didn't have any reaction. Xianxia couldn't help but push him in embarrassment. A certain guy then came back to his senses and coughed awkwardly. He was just joking. He didn't expect that she would really do as he wished. For a moment, he was caught off guard. Xianxia sized him up and was sharp enough to notice that a blush had spread from his cheeks to his ears. Even the tip of his ears couldn't help but turn red. It turned out that this guy was so easily embarrassed. But when she watched him act, no matter if it was a bed scene or a kiss scene, he was like an experienced driver. He was familiar with the scene and did not seem shy at all. Hua Jin played the role of a rich playboy in Extreme Youth. From the beginning, the image of the character was rebellious and frivolous. His first appearance was a hotbed scene, that French kiss that made people blush and their hearts race. She was also on set during the filming and blushed incessantly. However, after the scene, he was not shy at all. Instead, He complained that the female supporting lead was not beautiful enough. She didn't expect him to be shy too? I was just joking. Hua Jin pretended to be reserved and said, "You were the one who wanted to kiss me. You couldn't help it, right?" "All right, I got it." Xianxia flicked his forehead and said, "Turn around back to me. I'll apply the medicine for you." "You can apply medicine, but you're not allowed to cry anymore," Hua Jin said seriously. "I got it." Xianxia urged him a few more times. Hua Jin turned around, and Xianxia quietly applied the medicine for him. Gao Nan was really fierce when it came to fighting and used all his strength. Aside from the old injuries on his back, the rest of the wounds were congested because he hit too hard. The room was silent for a moment. Hua Jin let her apply the medicine as he pursed his lips. After hesitating for a while, he suddenly said, Sure, I won't call you Sure from now on." "What's wrong?" Hua Jin fell into an awkward silence again. Xianxia cursed inwardly. "What a weird guy. I asked him for the reason, but he didn't say anything." Chapter 2580. However, Hua Jin suddenly turned around, and his clear voice suddenly sounded above her head. "If I call you elder sister, will you be willing?" Xianxia was stunned for a moment. She frowned and looked up, only to see Hua Jin's extremely gentle gaze gazing at her brows. His voice was gentle as he said, Sure, do you know why I like to be with you?" "It's because you always give me a very warm feeling. I don't have a home, and I don't have any relatives in this world. However, you give me a very warm feeling that makes me find some warmth in this cold world." After pausing for a moment, Hua Jin continued, "In the past, I somewhat childishly thought that in the next life, I must be your relative. But let's not wait for the next life, okay? If I call you elder sister, will you be willing to treat me as your younger brother?" Xianxia said almost without any hesitation, "Why wouldn't I be willing?" "I'm worried," Hua Jin continued. "Don't you have a biological younger brother?" "It's that little devil called Gongjie." "Little devil." The corners of Xia's eyes twitched fiercely. She couldn't help but recall Gongjie's warm gaze when he looked at her. Forgive her lack of imagination. It was very difficult for her to link such an adorable little brother with a little devil. "I'm willing to be your elder sister." Hua Jin was a little doubtful if he was dreaming. There seemed to be too many surprises today, and he couldn't digest them all. He thought that he was in a dream. He asked tentatively, "Are you really willing?" "Yeah." Hua Jin smiled shyly. Then he looked down and frowned slightly. After pondering for a while, he finally said softly, "Sis. Elder sister." "Yeah." Seeing that she agreed, Hua Jin didn't care about being reserved anymore. He smiled brightly and said seriously, "Don't worry, elder sister. I'll be very obedient and won't cause you any trouble." Xianxia said heroically, "You don't have to be afraid of causing trouble. I'll take care of it for you." "That good?" "Aha." She paused for a moment before continuing. "Now, obediently turn your back to me and let me apply the ointment for you." "Oh." Hua Jin obediently turned around. Once his back was facing her, his face could not hide the radiance that was as dazzling as fireworks. He finally had a family. He silently made a decision in his heart. Xianxia was his most important family member. Even if he had to pay the price, he would protect her with his life. After applying the medicine, Xianxia chatted with him for a while. Seeing that it was getting late, she decided to leave. Hua Jin didn't ask her to stay and walked her to the door. "Would you like me to walk you downstairs?" "No need. My car is parked downstairs." Hua Jin nodded. "Okay, be careful on your way back. Call me when you get home." "All right." After Xianxia finished speaking, she put on her shoes, waved at him and left. After she left, Hua Jin didn't care that the door was still open. He couldn't hide the joy and happiness on his face as he made a victory gesture. If his willpower wasn't strong enough, he would have danced to the rhythm. Just as he was in high spirits, Xianxia suddenly returned. She suddenly remembered that she had left her handbag in the living room, so she turned around to retrieve it. Just as she pushed open the door, she saw Hua Jin dancing smugly. She stood rooted to the ground in shock. The corners of her eyes twitched. "What are you doing? What was wrong with him?" Chapter 2581. What are you doing?
Hua Jin was caught off guard by her sudden turn of events and stood rooted to the ground awkwardly.
I'm dancing. You're dancing just because you don't like it?
Hua Jin felt even more embarrassed and said stubbornly, "Can't I dance?"
I suddenly feel like dancing.
Xianxia coughed a few times and said, "Excuse me, I need to get my bag."
Hua Jin stepped aside awkwardly. Xianxia took her bag and left. This time, Hua Jin had learned his lesson and watched her walk to the staircase. He only closed the door after she entered the lift.
He couldn't help but cover his mouth with his hand as he snickered.
He had a family now. When Xianxia reached home, Wuxia was still in the study. She knocked on the door and walked in. She saw the man in a white shirt sitting in front of the computer. However, he looked extremely serious and his good-looking eyebrows were tightly knitted and showed no signs of relaxing. It seemed like he had encountered a difficult problem. That was what she guessed. Most of the time, when they saw him at work, he always had a serious look on his face.
However, it was rare to see such a serious look on his face.
Even his facial features were extremely stiff.
Unless he encountered a particularly difficult case, he would not have such a terrifying expression.
At the same time, he looked a little tired. When she reached home earlier, Yu said that he had locked himself in the study and had been working for a few hours. He didn't even seem to have time for dinner. How could he be so busy?
She walked over slowly and carefully placed her hand on his shoulder. However, he still didn't have any reaction, as if he didn't notice her presence. He stared at the report on the screen expressionlessly. His mind was working furiously on formulas and data. She was worried that he was so busy with work that he had neglected his health and hurt his stomach. She whispered carefully, "Hubby, I'm back."
Wuxia was awakened by her words.
He looked up and saw that it was her. He covered the back of her hand and said tiredly, "Why are you so late?"
Because.
Xianxia did not intend to hide it from him.
Hua Jin is injured. Injured? Wuxia frowned suspiciously. How did you get hurt for no reason?
Xianxia pondered for a moment before answering, "Because of Gao Nan."
Gao Nan? Wuxia's eyes were blank. It was obvious that he had forgotten this name. Have you forgotten? Xiao Shui's boyfriend.
Is Xiao Shui your best friend?
Yes.
Wuxia raised his eyebrows, but he found it strange.
What's going on? Xianxia was a little conflicted about whether she should tell him about this. In fact, on the way back, she couldn't wait to tell him about it. She was furious about how Gao Nan had humiliated her and him. However, as soon as she got home, she saw that he was so tired. His eyes were faintly bloodshot. It was obvious that he was extremely tired. It was probably because of his work that he had a lot of problems. She suddenly felt her heart ache. This man had always concealed his negative emotions very well. Chapter 2582. She had never heard him mention anything about his difficulties at work. However, she believed that in such an intense business world, where everyone was trying to outwit each other, every step was frightening. It was impossible for everything to always go smoothly. However, he had never complained to her or mentioned anything about it. Not even a word or half a sentence. And her? She always seemed to be emitting a strong negative energy. It was as if she thought that she had worked hard to earn money, so she took pride in it and thought that this was her capital, so she seriously supported herself. She had originally thought that her personality was independent, but it was only at this moment that she realized that she had never realized that her dependence on him was actually so strong. She would always tell him about her difficulties at work. Even if it was a huge grievance and bumpy road for her, he would always be like a god who could easily settle everything for her. Thinking about it, in front of him, she still stubbornly believed that she had to work hard to support herself, but in reality? If the two of them had their own careers, then who would take care of the family? Her so-called lack of security was just selfishness. Selfishly pursuing her own interests, selfishly using morality as a hostage, selfishly believing that his efforts were justified, selfishly believing that he was holding up the entire sky for her, trapping her in his hands like a canary in a cage. But on the other hand, she was so dependent on him. Xianxia suddenly felt a strong sense of guilt in her heart. Especially when she saw how tired he was, her heart ached even more. He was so busy with work just to give her the best life. This was his love, so why couldn't she accept it? It wasn't natural for a man to support a woman, but if a man was willing to give up everything for you, why not accept it calmly? She thought that since she was so dependent on him, why not rely on him more thoroughly? She needed him. And he also needed her to rely on him. He needed her company, especially when he was tired from work. Even if she was just silently by his side, without the negative energy of the entertainment industry, without those messy trivial matters. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel a little sorry for him. She couldn't bear to tell him all the unpleasant things that happened tonight when he was so tired. On the one hand, she wanted to support herself. On the other hand, if she encountered any trouble, she would ask for his resources, his connections, and his abilities. Wasn't this a disguised double standard? Xianxia made up her mind to put Gao Nan's matter aside for now. She could handle it herself. She would come clean with Xiao Shui about this matter so that the latter would completely give up on Gao Nan and find happiness again. Thinking of this, Xianxia suddenly leaned over and wrapped her arms around his shoulders. She sighed and said, "It's nothing." Wuxia looked at her strangely. "You look like you have a lot on your mind. There's obviously something wrong." "It's really nothing," Xianxia said coquettishly. Wuxia wrapped his arms around her waist and pulled her into his embrace. He gently pecked her tender red lips and said gently, "Just say what you want to say." "Yes. It's like this." Xianxia asked tentatively, "Can I recognize Hua Jin as my younger brother?" Wuxia pondered for a while. "If it's just a younger brother." After saying that, he looked at her meaningfully. Chapter 2583. You have a problem with that? Wuxia said with a threatening look. Xianxia asked cautiously, "Can I have a problem with that?" "Rejected." "Why?" Xianxia said gloomily, "Hua Jin doesn't have any relatives. He has always treated me well and treated me like his biological sister. I acknowledged him as my younger brother because I feel sorry for him and want to take care of him." Wuxia looked even more displeased. He probed, "What about me?" "What do you mean?" "If you want to take care of him, then I want to take care of him too." He was obviously jealous. However, this man looked so adorable when he was jealous that she didn't know what to do with him. Xianxia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You're different from him." "How are we different?" "He's my younger brother and you're my husband." She cupped his face in her hands and kissed his thin, well-defined lips as she coaxed. "Is that okay? Just agree to my condition." "I can agree to your condition." Wuxia unexpectedly agreed. He agreed to it so easily. That might not be the case. This time, it was his turn to state his condition. Wuxia inched closer to her and whispered into her ear, "Tonight, you'll be on top." What? Xianxia turned pale with fright. Her face flushed red as she shook her head like a broken wave drum. Goodness gracious. She couldn't do it. She had basically gotten used to him. He was on top. Even so, every time they did it, she would still be so shy that she wanted to bury her face under the pillow. She was on top. In his imagination it seemed a little. Since you can't do it, then there's no need to talk about this. What about the other condition that I agree to? Xianxia wanted to use another condition to negotiate with him. However, who was Wuxia? He had been in the business world since he was 20 years old. He had experienced too much. He was a shrewd businessman and an insufferably arrogant emperor. How could he fall into her trap? He had long wanted her to be on top. This way, he would be able to enjoy all of her charm to his heart's content. Especially when he thought of her bashful and seductive appearance. He looked forward to it even more. No way. Xianxia bit her lips. She was conflicted for a long time before she suddenly mumbled in a voice as soft as a mosquito. I don't know how to. Seeing her while wavering, Wuxia's lips curled up in an imperceptible arc. His eyes were as deep as the sea, so he hugged her, kissed her and guided her patiently. Be good, I will teach you. Oh, that. All right then. Xianxia blushed and reluctantly agreed. Wuxia felt comfortable in his heart. He patted her butt, as if to chase her back to the room. Go take a shower first. Wait. Xianxia hooked her arms around his shoulders and mumbled, There's one more thing that I want to discuss with you. One more thing? Wuxia glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. This time, he was extremely generous.
Say it.
Hubby, I've seriously considered it. Chapter 2584. She said those words with difficulty. To her, relying on others to support her was no different from begging for money. But it was the same for him. He was her man. She was willing to rely on him. Mu Yaja's eyes flickered a little. He was obviously surprised that she would say that.
Why did you say that all of a sudden?
He couldn't help but feel doubtful. Xianxia said honestly, "It's nothing much. It's just that when I came back and saw that you were still working and looked very tired, I thought that if the two of you were busy with your own careers, you would spend less time apart. It's obviously impossible for you to give up your career. A career is a man's pride. However, I can give up my career for you. I'll stay by your side and accompany you until we're old." This was probably the most emotional thing she had ever said in her life. This sentence was full of her deep affection, compromise, and gentleness. Xianxia emphasized again, "If I don't work, you have to support me." Mu Yaja suddenly hugged the back of her neck and kissed her deeply. Pressing his lips against hers, he enunciated each and every word clearly. "Little fool. Everything I have was created for you. I swore to give you the best life. Since I said this, I'll do it. Don't talk about the whole world, even I'm yours." Xianxia couldn't help but be moved. She pursed her lips, held his face, and welcomed his kiss. The two of them kissed each other passionately.
Outside the door, the two little lads peeked at the scene in the study through the crack of the door.
When they saw this scene, they were overjoyed. The two of them kissed so passionately that they didn't realize that there were two pairs of eyes secretly watching them. He. Xiaoyichen couldn't stop laughing. He and Yu looked at each other, smiled, and gave each other a high five. "Daddy is so awesome."
Shoo!
The night was dark. Xianxia took a shower and lay on the bed, distracted. Mu Yaja finished his work and returned to the bedroom from the study. He walked into the shower and after a while, she heard the sound of running water. She suddenly had an uneasy feeling. It was as if she was a tribute that was about to be offered to him. What to do? The woman on top and the man on the bottom. She had never tried this position before. He vaguely remembered that there was a time when he was in the mood and helped her sit on his body. However, she was shy and bashful. She struggled and fell into his arms, unwilling to move. He wasn't too persistent. Although he was more daring and passionate than her in bed, and had also tempted her to try different positions, this position was the only one he had never tried before. It was probably because of her naturally shy personality that she always felt that women were too presumptuous on top of him. It was too hot. Oh my God. Thinking that she was about to fulfill her promise, she became more and more restless. When Mu Yaja opened the door and walked out, she immediately closed her eyes and hid her restless little head under the blanket. She was so scared that she didn't even dare to breathe. It was so embarrassing. As Mu Yaja wiped his wet hair, he glanced sideways at the person on the bed who was completely covered under the blanket. He couldn't help but smile. This little fellow, did she think that she could escape this time by pretending to be asleep and stupid? Dream on. There was silence outside the blanket. There was no more movement. Where is she? Chapter 2585. Xianxia could not help feeling puzzled. She opened her eyes and furrowed her brows. Curiously, she poked her head out of the blanket and saw Mu Yaja's handsome face leaning close to her. "You're finally willing to wake up?" His eyes were filled with mockery and playfulness, looking extremely devilish. Xianxia's face instantly heated up, and even her body temperature rose continuously. Mu Yaja nodded and raised his brows, seemingly provoking and inviting her at the same time. "Be good and sit here." Xianxia really wanted to say, "I can't." However, a certain man clearly did not intend to give her any room to retreat. That night, a certain man finally got what he wanted. He was able to enjoy the seductive look of a certain little woman he had been looking forward to for a long time. He seemed to be tireless and craved for more. After a night of absurdity, he wrinkled the entire bedsheet. When morning came, the man got out of bed, washed up, got dressed, and gently kissed her forehead. When he left the room, Xianxia woke up. She got up and looked at the marks on the bed. How could she go back to sleep? She hurriedly got out of bed and washed the bedsheet before the two little guys noticed. She hung it up to dry before returning to the room. She then took out a medicine box from the drawer, opened it, and took out a small pill, which she drank with water. This guy. After an entire night of absurdity, not a single one of them missed. Went in. Now, she had no choice but to take the long-acting contraceptive pill. However, this naive woman was completely unaware that the pill in the medicine box was no longer a long-acting contraceptive pill. Instead, a certain black-bellied man had secretly replaced it with folic acid. She was still secretly pleased with herself. Little did she know that with her shrewdness, there was no way she could outsmart a certain man who was even more shrewd than her. Xianxia slept for a long time. The two considerate little guys clearly knew that their mommy must be exhausted, so they deliberately did not wake her up. In the afternoon, when Xianxia woke up, Yu immediately prepared lunch for her. After finishing her lunch, Xianxia finally remembered to meet up with Xianxia. Xianxia sent a message back, asking if Gao Nan could come along. Xianxia immediately replied, "I just want to talk to you alone today, is that okay? Just the two of us." After a while Xianxia replied, "Okay. Actually, Xia, I was on a date with Gao Nan." Xia's heart skipped a beat as she suddenly recalled Gao Nan's vile and despicable words in the bar last night. "Marrying her is the best way to repay her for all the love she has given me. If you intend to tell her about this, I don't mind. I'm looking forward to seeing her expression when she finds out about this. Hee, just thinking about it makes me feel that it's quite interesting. Anyway, I'm already tired of her. If she didn't fantasize about marrying me all day, do you think I would want to marry her?" Xianxia felt extremely uncomfortable when she saw her friend's deep affection for Gao Nan. "No, I can't let him hurt her anymore." Xia's attitude was firm. "I have something to say to you in private." "What is it?" "Gao Nan is also one of us. What can't you say in front of him? Men can't participate in a woman's private conversation. I'll wait for you at the cafe, okay?" Chapter 2586. "Okay. It's just as well. We haven't met up in a long time." After hanging up, Xianxia suddenly realized that since Xianxia and Gao Nan were together, the latter probably knew that she was the one who had arranged to meet Xianxia at the cafe. Would he make things difficult for her? Or would he tag along? Then, in front of Gao Nan, Xiaoxue's topic would revolve around her. Women in their honeymoon period had low IQ, but it was not because of their low IQ. It was precisely because of their passionate love that they only had eyes for the one they loved, and the whole world had lost its color. She could tell that Xiaoxue was deeply in love with Gao Nan. If she were to tell her about him directly, would she be able to accept it? She would definitely be heartbroken, right? There was probably nothing more despairing than the fact that the man she loved didn't love her back and even cruelly saw her as a burden. When she saw Gao Nan's true colors, Xianxia had the urge to have a good talk with Xiaoxue. However, Mu Yaja had said that it was not for a best friend to say such things. Perhaps, Xiaoxue could use her true love to influence Gao Nan? Although some men were indeed dissolute by nature, when they reached a certain age, they would be tired of indulging in debauchery. At that time, they would want to live a good life and settle down. Xianxia was also a little worried that Xiaoxue would not believe her words and even suspect that she had ulterior motives to sow discord between them. Hence she endured it. However, after last night's incident, Xianxia made up her mind that no matter how Xiaoxue looked at her, she must have a good talk with her about this matter. Xianxia arrived at the cafe early. As she sat in her seat, she was thinking about how to come clean with Xiaoxue about this matter and mentally prepared herself for Gao Nan's presence. Just as her thoughts were in a mess, Xiaoxue parked her car outside the window. She picked up her handbag and alighted from the car. The moment she alighted, she saw Xianxia sitting by the window and waving her hands excitedly. Xia. The two had not seen each other for a long time, and it was rare for them to get together. She ran into the cafe with small steps. Xianxia finally heaved a sigh of relief when she noticed that she was alone. It's not too bad. As long as Gao Nan isn't here, the situation will be easier to control, and I can let loose a little. Otherwise, with that jerk around, who knows how he'll mess things up. Xiaoxue entered the private room. As soon as she saw her, she happily hugged her after a long separation. Xia, I missed you so much. Xianxia pushed her away in disdain. She couldn't help but tease. Since you missed me, why did you disappear for so long? You didn't even reply to my WeChat messages. You've been missing for so long. Where have you been? Aya, I'm thinking about you in my heart. As Xiao Shui spoke, she sat down opposite her. The waiter came over and handed her the menu. Xiao Shui ordered coffee and some desserts. When Yunshishir saw that she had ordered a lot, she quickly told the waiter, "I'll have a cup of rose tea. I don't want the Blue Mountain coffee." Xiao Shui was a little surprised. She had ordered according to Yunshishir's taste, so why did she change it to jasmine tea? Yunshishir explained, "I haven't been sleeping well recently, and you told me to drink less coffee, so I've been drinking flower tea." Chapter 2587. Oh, I see. Xiao Shui furrowed her brows and asked suspiciously, "Why can't you sleep well? Is something bothering you?" "I don't know. It's just that I feel drowsy and sleepy during the day, so I can't fall asleep at night. You said that it's probably because I drank too much coffee in the past, so I can't fall asleep." "That little guy is so considerate. Shusha, you're blessed to have such a pair of treasures in your previous life." With that, she passed the menu to the waiter, who then retreated. Seeing that there were only the two of them, Yunshishir purposely chose a private room with an elegant ambience. At this time, there would be no one around. Thus, she silently deliberated on how to change her words. Xiao Shui, on the other hand, was so excited that she started talking non-stop. Sure, do you know? A while ago, Gao Nan and I went to the Maldives for a vacation." Yunshishir's train of thought was interrupted. The moment she heard Gao Nan's name, she frowned almost reflexively. The Maldives? Xiao Shui obviously did not notice the change in her expression as she continued to ramble. "Yes. Do you know? In the Maldives, I saw Gao Nan's figure for the first time. Heavens! I didn't expect him to have such a good figure when he usually wears a shirt. He said that he pays attention to exercise, so he has always maintained a good figure. I was so angry when I heard that, so to maintain my figure, I rarely touch desserts and exercise diligently, but I didn't even have half a cleavage." Yunshishir smiled in silence as she listened to her. It would be impolite to interrupt her now that she was in high spirits. However, when we were in the Maldives, Gao Nan took the initiative to. Xiao Shui stopped abruptly in the middle of her words, and a bashful look appeared on her face. Biting her lower lip, she looked at Yunshishir with a conflicted expression. Sure, I don't think it's a good idea to do that before we're married." "What?" Yunshishir asked knowingly. Xiao Shui glared at her. For a moment, she was too embarrassed to say that word. After struggling for a while, she gritted her teeth and stomped her feet in anger. "Aya, it's that. If you don't make it clear, how would I know what you're referring to?" Xiao Shui was depressed. She mustered up her courage and said, Sure, do you remember what I told you before? I swear that before I get married, I will never have that kind of intimate relationship with a man." Yunshishir smiled. "Yes, you did say that before. At that time, I even laughed at your conservative views. But that's what I really think. A woman's first time is given to the man she loves most on her wedding night. Isn't that the most beautiful gift?" Yunshishir disagreed. "Do you think of yourself as an object?" "I didn't mean that." Xiao Shui blushed and said, "I just feel that the progress is a little too fast. In my heart, marriage is sacred, and so is the first night. It should be saved for the most memorable day." "So that day you rejected him?" Yunshishir raised a brow. "When he asked you to sleep with him, you rejected him." Xiao Shui's face turned even redder as she hurriedly denied, "No." Chapter 2588. At first, when he pressed me down on the bed, he kissed me so passionately that I couldn't help but respond to him. But gradually, I regained my consciousness and pushed him away, saying that I didn't want to. He was puzzled, and his expression seemed a little cold. He said that I didn't love him enough, and that I wasn't even willing to sleep with him. I felt so wronged and couldn't explain myself. I said that I wanted to wait until our wedding night. And then he asked me what I was afraid of. He said that we had already decided to get married and be together forever. We had also met each other's parents and acknowledged each other. So why couldn't we give everything to each other? I also feel very conflicted. Could it be that my rejection was wrong? Yunshishir heard this and was silent for a while. Suddenly she said, "You weren't wrong. It's just that you didn't feel safe enough with him."
You love him because you love him so much that you've lost yourself. Xiao Shue's eyes suddenly flickered, and she nodded heavily. That's true. I don't know why, but I don't feel safe with him. Sure, you're right. Actually, when it comes to sex, the current era is very open-minded. Even if it's not your first time on your wedding night, if the man loves you enough, the so-called first time doesn't prove anything. On the contrary, even if you slept with him and broke up in the end, it's not a shameful thing. Men have lust, but don't women have it too? On the contrary, women are more easily moved and fall in love. It's easier for them to lose themselves and fall in love. But premarital sex wasn't something that couldn't be seen in the light of day. It just depends on whether he's worth it. If you don't want to, you naturally have your concerns. But not only did he not understand and empathize with you, he blamed you. If it were me, I would be very disappointed. Xiao Shui suddenly fell silent. It's legal for men to have premarital sex. Why can't women do the same? In this era, men and women are equal. As long as it's out of true love, no matter who you sleep with, it's your freedom. As long as you protect yourself and don't get hurt, there's nothing wrong with that. Xiao Shui, this is not shameful at all. However, he said that purely because he's using you as a pastime. If he can even say such selfish words, how important are you in his heart? Xianxia patiently asked, Xiao Shui, are you sure that Gao Nan truly loves you? Of course. Xiao Shui said, he said that he loved me. He wouldn't lie. I don't think so. Xianxia went straight to the point. Xiao Shui, let's have a frank talk about Gao Nan. I have a lot to tell you about him. Xiao Shui frowned and asked, what do you want to say? Xiao Shui, we've been friends for so many years. There's something I want to tell you. After a pause, Xianxia quietly said, Gao Nan isn't a reliable man. He's not suitable for you. Before she could finish speaking, Xiao Shui's expression changed instantly. Xiaxia's words came so suddenly that she was stunned for a long time, unable to understand why Xiaxia would say that. Why isn't he reliable? Xiao Shui smiled. He's handsome, tall, gentle, considerate, and has a good family background. Although there are conflicts between us, I'm still very happy with him. Chapter 2589. What do you mean? Xianxia pondered for a long time before coming clean. Last night, one of our cast members held a birthday party, and Gao Nan appeared at the party. But do you know what kind of identity he used to appear? Looking at her solemn face, Xiao Shui felt inexplicably uneasy. What identity? Last night, it was Ji Yan's birthday party. I was surprised when Gao Nan appeared, but the next second, Ji Yan went up to him and kissed him. Finally, she walked up to us while holding his arm affectionately, and announced that he was her boyfriend for 2 months. Xiao Shui was stunned for a while before she burst into laughter. Sure, this joke isn't funny at all. Are you making fun of me? Today isn't April Fool's Day. Xianxia did not laugh but looked at her calmly. I'm not joking. What I said is true. The smile on Xiao Shui's face froze completely. Suddenly, she tugged at the corner of her lips and forced a smile. How is that possible? Shui, do you really know this man well? Xianxia asked nervously. Don't tell me that you still don't know what kind of man he is after being with him for so long? Sure you, Xiao Shui asked hesitantly. You're not lying to me, are you? What? Did Gao Nan make you unhappy or bully you in some way? Is that why you're saying this? Xiao Shui replied, he was chatting with me last night. Is there a wound on his face? Xianxia suddenly asked sharply. Xiao Shui was stunned. How did she know that Gao Nan was injured? Yes. There's a blood clot at the corner of his eye. Do you know Hua Jin? Yes. I know him. He's the male lead of Lethal Beauty, a very popular costume actor. Last night, in the washroom, Gao Nan touched me and said some humiliating words to me. When I threatened to tell you about his affair, what did he say? He said. Xianxia paused and said expressionlessly, he couldn't wait for me to tell you, because he's already tired of you. After dating for so long, you've only hugged, held hands and kissed. It doesn't matter who you marry. The Xiao family is not a rich family, but at least they're well off. To him, he didn't care who he married as long as the Gao family approved of it. However, after they got married,
His wife had no right to interfere with how dissolute he was outside. What did this mean? Shui, this means that after marriage, you will have to guard the empty room and watch him indulge in debauchery outside. Is this the kind of life you want? Impossible. Xiao Shui suddenly clenched her fists in agitation. Her eyes reddened, and even her face was slightly distorted. Sure, this is impossible. He's not that kind of man. You don't know how gentle and considerate he is to me. He dotes on me like a little princess. But at the same time, you're not the only one he dotes on. Xiao Shui. Chapter 2590. Xianxia was also agitated. Xiao Shui, wake up. Don't be like a moth darting into a flame just because you love this man so much. Stop it. Xiao Shui stood up with a livid expression and glared at her. She almost lost control and said, "He can't do this to me." Sure. Don't be like this. Xianxia had expected her to react, but she didn't expect her to react so violently. She frowned and looked at her worriedly. She said nervously, "Xiao Shui, we've been friends for so many years. I won't hurt you, right?" "I'm sorry." Xiao Shui's heart was in a mess. She smoothed her messy hair and suddenly picked up her handbag on the sofa. She said to Xianxia, "I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well. I'll leave first." With that, she turned around and, not caring about Xianxia's reaction, hastily left like a disheveled deserter. Her footsteps were so hurried that her mind was blank. She bumped into the waiter who was holding the tray. Crash. The coffee and dessert fell to the ground and made a piercing sound. Xiao Shui was so anxious that she was about to cry. She couldn't care about anything else and rushed out of the cafe. Xianxia chased after her anxiously. When she saw the waiter squatting on the ground to pick up the pieces, she immediately apologized. I'm sorry to have caused you trouble." "It's okay." The waiter looked up and saw Xianxia. He recognized her at a glance. Xianxia was sitting in her seat, and because the light cast a silhouette on her face, he didn't recognize her clearly. However, when he saw her up close, he exclaimed in surprise, "Oh my God! You're Xianxia. Are you the celebrity who acted as Xiaochuan?" Xianxia glanced at Xiao Shui, who had rushed out of the door. She wanted to chase after her, but her arm was grabbed tightly by the waiter. She said to her in admiration, "Xianxia, I'm your loyal fan. I've watched your movie several times. Can I take a photo with you? Or, give me an autograph?" "Sorry, I still have something to do." Xianxia stuffed $200 bills into her hand and chased after Xiao Shui out of the cafe. However, when she opened the door, she saw that Xiao Shui had already started the car and sped away. "Xiao Shui!" Xianxia chased after him for a few steps, but in the end, she couldn't catch up. She could only helplessly watch the car drive away. She immediately rubbed her forehead in annoyance and bit her lip. She had expected better from him. Xiao Shui drove very fast along the way. Her driving skills had always been good, but now she was a little out of control because of her upset mood. Even so, she still stepped on the accelerator and sped forward. Finally, she stopped in front of the villas. She parked the car and looked out the window. She got out of the car and stood outside the door with a conflicted expression. Gao-nan lived here. Subconsciously, she drove the car here because she couldn't help but want to see him immediately. However, when the car came to a stop, she suddenly hesitated whether she should confirm it with Gao-nan or not. Could what Xianxia said be the truth? She suddenly became like a coward and didn't dare to probe further. No matter what the truth was, whether it was true or not, she couldn't accept the result. Chapter 2591. She had given so much of her feelings, so what? What if it wasn't the truth? Gao-nan would definitely doubt her and be disappointed in her. Then, what was Xianxia's motive for saying those righteous words? Her heart was in a mess. Tears welled up in her eyes, and she was at a loss of what to do. All of a sudden, she squatted on the ground and hugged her head in agony. Her whole world was spinning, and everything was gray and devoid of color. She didn't know how to face this matter. Should she pretend that she didn't know, or should she cut off this relationship? However, after dating for so long, she was already deeply involved in this relationship. If she insisted on cutting it off, it would be nothing more than cutting a piece of flesh from her heart and causing it to bleed profusely. She would be hurt.
She would be in despair. She would completely break down and then, like a walking corpse, the sky would collapse and crush her mercilessly. However, was it really a good idea to be like a coward and not ask about the truth of the matter? Still, she didn't have the courage and willpower to question Gao Nan about this matter. Thinking about it carefully, indeed, there was something fishy about it. For example, the unfamiliar perfume smell in the car. For example, a long strand of hair on his shirt collar. For example, a bouquet of flowers in the back seat. All of this didn't seem to be untraceable. What should she do, though? How should she face it? Just as she was feeling lost, she heard a familiar voice behind her. Shwe! Startled, she turned around in a daze and saw Gao Nan standing behind her. His car was parked at the side, so he must have just returned. Why are you squatting here? Asked Gao Nan. She stood up awkwardly with reddened eyes. She suddenly didn't know how to face him, and her expression became uneasy. Why are you back so early? Didn't you say that you had something to do at the company? Yes, it's already been settled. As he spoke, he sized her up. He was no fool. Knowing that Xiao Shui had turned up for Yun Shishi's appointment, it was not difficult for him to guess what that woman had said to her. He had noticed her abnormality, but he wasn't too surprised. He curled his lips. Why are you standing here? It's already so late. Do you want me to send you home? Gao Nan. Xiao Shui clenched her fists and finally mustered up her courage. Can I talk to you? Talk about what? There's something I want to ask you. Xiao Shui took a step closer and looked at him seriously. I'll be fine in a while. Can I talk to you? The man looked around and said, It's windy outside, why don't we have a seat at my place? Okay. Xiao Shui went home with him. In the living room, Gao Nan calmly brewed a cup of tea and served it to him. He then picked up an apple from the table and asked patiently, Do you want to eat an apple? I'll peel it for you. All right. Xiao Shui smiled, but there was a hint of bitterness in the curve of her lips. He then picked up the apple, sat beside her, and began to peel it silently. Xiao Shui stared at him without blinking. Suddenly, her heart skipped a beat and she quickly turned her gaze away. Damn it. Not good. If this continued, she would indulge in his gentleness again. There were some things that had to be clarified. Chapter 2592. As if he did not hear her question, he raised the apple in his hand and raised a brow. Didn't you want to eat an apple? You don't want to eat it? She thought that he was deliberately avoiding the topic because of his guilty conscience. With much difficulty, she tugged at the corner of her lips. Don't avoid the topic, okay? I'm asking you seriously. There's no need to be so secretive, right? He looked at her face without batting an eyelid. All of a sudden, he put the apple aside and placed the fruit knife on the table. Curling his lips into a smile, he elegantly wiped his wet fingers with a wet towel and expressionlessly asked, Do I have to report to you where I was last night? Xiao Shui, am I a criminal or something that requires me to report my whereabouts to you any time and anywhere? Her face froze for a moment. That's not what I meant. Then what do you mean? His expression could not help but turn cold. You squatted in front of my house for no reason, looking as if your soul had left your body. You said that you have something to discuss with me. I thought it was something important, but in the end, you want me to report my whereabouts to you? Xiao Shui, you're really interesting. She looked at him with a complicated expression. Flustered, she wanted to explain herself but did not know where to start. No matter how she looked at it, this man did not look guilty at all. Could it be that Xianxia was lying? Impossible. She knew Xianxia well. She would not deceive her, much less lie. His answer seemed to be evasive. Could it be that he was just pretending to be calm on the surface to gloss over this matter? Just as she was letting her imagination run wild, she heard him ask, Did Yun Shishi say something to you? Startled, she jerked her head up to look at him. What? Weren't you with her this afternoon? He asked again. Don't tell me she said something to you, and that's why you came here to question me about my whereabouts last night? She was confused for a moment. What did she say? There's no need to hide anything. Isn't this the reason why you wanted to talk to me? As he spoke, he walked to the bar counter, took out a bottle of red wine from the wine cabinet, opened it, and poured himself a glass. He then leaned lazily against the bar counter, took a sip and said, Let me guess. She didn't tell you that I was with another woman last night, and then I cheated on you and betrayed you. Xiao Shui was startled and her face turned pale. After a moment of silence, she nodded and said, "Yes, that's what she told me." She nervously looked up at him and asked seriously, "Is what she said true?" Raising a brow, the man shrugged and hummed,
"She's telling the truth."
He actually admitted it so readily?
Xiao Shui found it hard to believe. How could this man be so straightforward? He didn't even try to cover up or make excuses. He didn't even try to hide anything and just admitted it directly. "You. Isn't that what you want? As you wish."
"That's not it." She broke down and screamed, her eyes turning red. "I don't want to hear such an answer."
"Deny it. Quickly deny it."
Conflicted, she thought, "I'd rather he lie to me or nervously cover it up."
Chapter 2593.
"But what you've heard is the truth."
Gao Nan did not avoid the topic and confessed frankly. "Last night was Ji Yan's birthday party. I did have an affair and betrayed you. Well, it's not just Ji Yan. When you weren't in the country, I was bored, so I dated several women. Although some of them were one-night stands and didn't develop into long-term relationships, it's still considered an affair."
Gao Nan.
Xiao Shui's heart ached even more when she saw him admit it so readily. "Do you really understand the man you love? He doesn't care about your feelings at all, so why should he care about you?" Yun Shishi's words still echoed in her ears. She hung her head in a daze, her heart aching so much that she felt suffocated. So this is what it feels like to be hurt? So this is what it feels like to be hurt. Once upon a time, when she was in university, a girl in her class who was heartbroken would go to the KTV to drink with her friends. When she got drunk, she would hold the microphone and sing love songs at the top of her lungs with tears streaming down her face. She had always thought that it was quite pretentious.
However, when it was her turn to get hurt and her heart ached, she suddenly realized that it was not pretentious at all.
It was a kind of despair that felt like the end of the world.
"Why are you doing this to me?"
she asked bitterly.
"Didn't you say that I'm the only woman you love and that I'm the only one in your heart?"
Do you believe such nonsense? Gao Nan, on the other hand, did not think much of it. He even laughed wickedly, ignoring her sadness and disappointment. The corners of his lips curled up, looking extremely dazzling. "Xiao Shui, I'm with you because I've decided that you're my marriage partner. It's too difficult to find someone who my family is satisfied with, and it just so happens that my parents are very satisfied with your performance." They nodded their heads, "So I don't have any objections. Anyway, I don't have any special requirements for my wife. After all, it doesn't make a difference to any woman."
"Don't you have a heart?" She stood up abruptly and glared at him.
"Don't you have a heart? Don't you feel sad and hurt? Similarly, don't you think about how sad I'll be if I find out what you've done? I don't want you to love me and be with me, but if you don't love me, you can tell me directly. I, Xiao Shui, will not pester any man. If I don't love you, then I don't love you. I won't pursue you relentlessly, and I won't insist on having you. But aren't you playing with my feelings by doing this?"
"Play with her?" Gao Nan suddenly let out a sinister laugh. Putting aside his wine glass, he slowly walked up to her and lowered his head to look at her condescendingly.
"Play with you? Xiao Shui, are you sure that I'm the one playing with your feelings and not you?" "You!" Xiao Shui was so angry that her lips trembled. She stared at him with some suspicion. "What do you mean by that?"
"The literal meaning, don't you understand?"
"You're my girlfriend, but as a woman, don't you have any basic awareness? Why are you acting like a chaste and virtuous woman? Does sleeping with me make you lose your appetite that much?"
"What?"
Xiao Shui was dumbfounded by his so-called reason. What kind of reason is that? This man was even more shameless than she had imagined. Chapter 2594. Why are you playing the role of a chaste woman? Does sleeping with me make you lose your appetite that much? If that's the case, why did you choose to marry me? Or do you want to play soulmate with me? Xiao Shui, do you really not understand that person? Men are creatures who think with their lower body, and I'm even more extreme. I'm not as pure as you, who doesn't have any thoughts about sleeping in the same bed as you. Her eyes widened in shock. So, this is your reason for cheating?
At least, other women can warm me up with their bodies, but you can't do anything. He then added, to be honest, I've been impatient with you for a long time now. Xianxia probably asked you out this afternoon to talk about this matter, right? Anyway, I'm tired of you too, and I'm tired of playing the role of a pretentious boyfriend. You can find someone else and don't waste your time on me. Or if you're willing to continue staying by my side as my fiancé, it's not impossible. After all, it's indeed a little difficult to find a qualified marriage partner. Smack. What he got in response was a stinging slap across his face. The man's face was slapped to one side, and he glared at her in surprise with shock in his eyes. She glared at him and suddenly curled her lips coldly. There must be a limit to how shameless you can be. Gao Nan, I've said before that I have principles when it comes to love. Whether it's wealth or nothing, even if the Gao family falls into poverty, I'm willing to give up everything for you. However, betrayal is the only thing that I can't forgive. The man stared at her in a daze for a long time, and the cold air seemed to have solidified into ice. She didn't want to waste any more time. She wiped away her tears fiercely, turned around, picked up her bag, and left without looking back. Gao Nan touched his burning cheeks and stared at her departing back with an ugly look on his face. After leaving the Gao residence, she opened the door and got in the car. However, she couldn't start the engine no matter how many times she tried. Only then did she realize that she had forgotten to turn off the headlights, and the battery had malfunctioned, so she couldn't start the car. She punched the steering wheel fiercely, as if that was not enough to vent her anger. She punched the steering wheel a few more times before her hands fell limply to her sides. She lowered her head and closed her eyes as she leaned against the steering wheel. Bean-sized tears streamed down her cheeks and wet her shirt collar. How can this be? How can there be such a vile man? She burst into tears. When she recalled Xianxia telling her about the man's misdeeds earlier, she did not think much of it, but when she heard the man blurt out those cruel words with her own ears, her mind went blank. Other than hatred, there was even more regret. Xianxia right. I must apologize to her face to face. She remembered that she had been filming recently, so she decided to go to the set tomorrow and apologize to her face to face. The next day, the set of Extreme Youth was filled with a strange atmosphere. Chapter 2595. When Xianxia stepped into the spacious lounge, the people who had gathered and whispered to each other dispersed and returned to their posts with different expressions. Just as she felt that something was amiss, she caught a glimpse of Ji Yan sitting in front of the makeup mirror, silently wiping her tears. Her red and swollen eyes indicated that she had cried. When she saw Xianxia, she did not smile and greet her affectionately like before. Instead, she turned her face away awkwardly and refused to look at Xianxia. It was obvious that she was a little angry. Xianxia was even more surprised. After a moment of reflection, she suddenly realized that Ji Yan had probably misunderstood her because of the unpleasantness at the party last night. Was that why she was giving her the cold shoulder? Then, what's with the other people's reactions? She looked around in confusion, only to notice that many makeup assistants were secretly sizing her up. When they saw her looking at them, they immediately turned away and lowered their heads guiltily without saying a word. There was a moment of silence in the air. It was precisely because of this momentary silence that an extremely sharp voice entered her ears. How dare she still have the cheek to come here? That's right. Interfering in other people's relationships. She's so annoying. Why didn't I realize that she's such a person before? Xianxia's hearing was not that sharp, but she still managed to catch the whispers in her ears. She suddenly sneered and said expressionlessly, "If you have something to say, you can just say it directly. There's no need to whisper and talk about others behind their backs." Just as she finished speaking, the surroundings suddenly became quiet. It was so quiet that only the sound of movement could be heard. Everyone ignored her as if she was invisible. Xianxia was angry. I don't know what kind of rumors I spread before I came to the set. Could it be that Ji Yan spread bad rumors about me and the crew to guide public opinion? It can't be, right? Am I that scheming? Moreover, what happened last night was also an accident. She admitted that Gao Nan's unfaithfulness had nothing to do with Ji Yan. She was also unlucky to have met a scumbag and became a third party, which was not her original intention. Still, it's inappropriate to spread bad rumors about me before the truth is clear, right? What's wrong? You're not talking now? You were whispering to each other just now. What is it that you can't say in front of me? Ji Yan finally raised her head to look at her, but that look was full of resentment, grievance, and even resentment. Yun Shirshir's makeup artist couldn't help but say, Shirshir, don't talk about it anymore. You were wrong to begin with. What did I do wrong? You shouldn't interfere with their relationship. Yun Shirshir, I used to like you quite a lot. I thought that you were quite straightforward, didn't put on airs, and got along well with everyone, but I didn't expect you to have such a bad personality in private. Ji Yan's assistant said righteously from the side. Yun Shirshir was completely confused. Mu Shi walked in with a stack of scripts and happened to see this scene. She immediately put down the scripts and tugged at Yun Shirshir's sleeve. Shirshir, what are you doing here? It's almost your turn to act, right? Hurry up and do your makeup. But don't stoop to their level. She lowered her voice and said, I have something to tell you. Chapter 2596. Yun Shirshir was still angry and wanted to say something, but Mu Shi tugged at her again and cautiously said, Shirshir, there must be some misunderstanding. If you say it now, it'll only be disadvantageous to you. Besides, the director is rushing you. You're already so late. You'd better hurry up and do your makeup. Yun Shirshir was furious, but she could not delay the filming, so she turned to leave. However, just as she turned around, a discordant voice came from behind her. Are you leaving just like that? Earlier, you were still so self-righteous about what can't be said face to face. Now that we're ready to clear things up, you're leaving because you have a guilty conscience. That's right. Weren't you so self-righteous earlier? Are you going to run away like a deserter now? Yun Shirshir finally could not take it anymore. She flung Mu Shi's hand away, turned around coldly and asked sternly, Who was the one making sarcastic remarks earlier? Step forward. Her voice was like a clap of thunder, and the scene instantly fell silent. She had been in the production team for so long, and no matter who she spoke to, she had always been gentle and rarely raised her voice. Hence, when she showed her inviolable side in her rage, everyone was instantly stunned. No one had ever seen such a cold side of Yun Shirshir before. She glared at them, and her originally gentle face turned bitingly cold due to her anger. That pair of inviolable eyes of hers became extremely dignified. Seeing that no one dared to speak or even breathe loudly, Yun Shirshir's voice turned even colder. Is it because I've always been gentle and nice to you all ever since I joined the production team, so you all think that I'm a weakling without a temper? Mu Shi was also stunned by her cold side. She stood at the side in a daze and did not react. What? Didn't you want to confront me? Yun Shirshir snorted. I don't know who's fanning the flames either, but I'm warning you all. I, Yun Shirshir, am not that easy to bully. My dressing room is just next door. If any of you have any opinions about me, you can directly confront me in the dressing room. If it is my fault, then I will admit it and apologize. I will even criticize the entire crew. However, if you are making things up out of nothing and fanning the flames behind my back without asking for the truth, I will not be weak to the end. Mu Shi raised her wrist to look at her watch and then carefully tugged at her sleeve. Even she could not help but be a little wary of Yun Shirshir's anger. She had never seen Yun Shirshir so angry before. Shirshir, don't lower yourself to their level. I'll take you to get your makeup done. It's too late. Only then did Yun Shirshir restrain her anger and turn to leave with her assistant. When she left the room, she was still angry and slammed the door shut. Bang! The sound of thunder resounded. Everyone was shocked. After calming down, they looked at each other. Someone whispered cautiously, What's the matter? She's clearly the one who's in the wrong. She's the one who's being unreasonable, yet she's still speaking so righteously. Shh! Someone shouted at her. That's enough. Stop talking. Don't you see how big a star she is? Only our Ji Yan is a newbie with a small star, so she's being trampled under her feet. Chapter 2597. Ji Yan, don't be sad. Someone immediately came forward to coax her. Yun Shirshir entered the dressing room. After waiting for a long time, her makeup artist still did not show up. The assistant stomped her feet in anger and scolded, What a fence-sitter! She's really going with the flow. She doesn't even know the truth of the matter and just randomly takes sides. I'll report the situation to the stage supervisor tomorrow and fire her. Enough, Yun Shirshir said. Anyway,
It's just light makeup. If she doesn't want to do it, I can do it myself. With that, she opened her makeup bag and started applying foundation. She was not very familiar with the technique, but she was very careful. As she did her makeup, she asked, "Mushi, what's going on? When I came to the set today, everyone looked at me strangely." Sure, you don't know this, but everyone in the set is spreading rumors about your relationship with Gao Nan."
Me and Gao Nan.
Xianxia widened her eyes in shock and turned to look at her in disbelief. "What's my relationship with him?" "Oh, didn't Hua Jin and Gao Nan get into a fight at the party last night? Hua Jin said that Gao Nan made a move on you, but didn't Ji Yen leave with him after that? As soon as I arrived at the set today, I heard Ji Yen complaining to those people. She said that after leaving the bar last night, Gao Nan told her that you were the one who seduced him. He even said that you coveted his status and wanted to use his power to climb up the social ladder. Everyone believed Ji Yan's words, which is why they're prejudiced against you." It turned out that the party had ended on a sour note after they left yesterday. However, rumors about her and Gao Nan spread among the crew. Many people began to speculate about the reason why Hua Jin and Gao Nan got into a fight.
Some said that Xianxia was a source of trouble and that she must be the cause of it.
The next day, before Xianxia arrived at the set, Ji Yan's assistant told the rest of the crew that Xianxia was a third party. On the surface, Xianxia looks pure and innocent. In the end, I didn't expect her to be a shameless third party.
These words were unpleasant to hear.
Everyone immediately gathered around curiously, and with the intention of gossiping, they wanted to get to the bottom of it. Sobbing, Ji Yen confessed everything that Gao Nan had told her last night. According to Gao Nan, Xianxia had secretly slipped him a note at the party last night, asking him to meet her in the washroom. Gao Nan arrived as promised, and Xianxia took the initiative to extend an olive branch to him, saying that she would sleep with him for a night. "I'll sleep with you for a night, and you make me the female lead of Lan Ling's war, okay?" His mother was a senior executive in an entertainment company and had recently invested in a TV series about the Prince of Lan Ling. Therefore, Xianxia shamelessly proposed this condition in order to get the female lead role in this drama. For a moment, Gao Nan was bewitched by her charm and could not help but kiss her, which was then witnessed by Hua Jin, who had rushed over. As everyone knew, Hua Jin and Xianxia had always been ambiguous and were often together. After filming, Hua Jin would directly get into Xianxia's car. As a result, rumors of their secret relationship spread among the crew. When Hua Jin saw this scene, he naturally flew into a rage out of humiliation. He even mistakenly thought that Gao Nan had raped Xianxia, so the two got into a fight. When everyone arrived, Xianxia immediately pretended to be an innocent white lotus and distanced herself from the matter. Chapter 2598. No wonder Xianxia has such good resources. It turns out that she relied on such means to get to where she is today. Everyone came to a sudden realization. "That's what happened. I heard it with my own ears," said Mushi. Xianxia furrowed her brows as shock and anger surfaced on her face. "I took the initiative to seduce Gao Nan. This script is well written.
It's such a pity that I'm not a scriptwriter."
She suddenly felt that this was probably the funniest joke she had ever heard. How is that possible? Even if I'm blind, a scumbag like Gao Nan won't have a chance, right? Besides, when it comes to resources, Qin Zhou can get for me whatever Gao Nan can give me. I'm not that cheap. But that's what Ji Yen said, and she even said it as if it's true. I was so angry when I heard it that I retorted a few times, but a bunch of people refuted me. In the end, I couldn't be bothered to argue with them anymore. Sure, don't think that you're really popular just because you treat them well in the production team. You've had such good resources since your debut, so people must be biased against you. They may treat you kindly on the surface, but who knows how many sugar daddies are secretly supporting you.
Mushi paused for a moment.
I know that you'd never do such a thing. Ji Yan's exaggeration is so exaggerated, yet people actually believe it. You took the initiative to seduce Gao Nan? Then, what is Mr. Mu and Xianxia? Either of them would be able to completely crush Gao Nan if they were to step forward. But, they are all fence-sitters. After hearing a few words, they really believed it. Based on what? Xianxia was furious. That's slander.
Sure, this is showbiz.
There are plenty of people who kick you when you're down. Mushi continued. Plus, you've starred in quite a few popular IP dramas since your debut. The scripts, drafts and fashion resources you've taken on far outstrip all the other starlets. Even Lin Ji is completely suppressed by you. They must be jealous of you, so they speculate and make up stories about you in private. Originally, I didn't get too close to them. Everything had its limits. I was just more friendly to them. I thought that with such a way of getting along, not to mention accumulating good karma, I wouldn't make enemies on all sides. You're too naive. What about Hua Jin?
Xianxia asked out of the blue.
He was at the scene yesterday and saw the scene between me and Gao Nan. They said that I was just quibbling, so Hua Jin's words should have some credibility, right?
Isn't Hua Jin injured?
Wuxia asked. Because of the bruises on his face, the director asked him to recuperate at home. After all, he's in the end, the director's, that's why he's on leave.
Oh. So he's on leave.
If it's Xianxia mu, ishi. Mushi took the foundation from her inside. Let's finish filming first. I was angry when I heard it, but I can't make things difficult for myself. She had learned a little makeup before and her skills were not bad. Xianxia calmed herself down and took a deep breath before she slowly curled her lips. I'm a little surprised if those words really came from Gao Nan. Although Gao Nan is notorious for his misdeeds, he's always been honest and upright, so he won't blame me for something as ridiculous as this.
You knew him before?
She could not help feeling surprised. Chapter 2599.
Yes.
He's my best friend's boyfriend.
Ah, boyfriend.
Mushi's hand paused for a moment. Boyfriend? Or ex-boyfriend?
Boyfriend.
They're dating, and they've been dating for a long time. Up until yesterday, the two were still dating. Then, he's been dating Ji Yan for 2 months. Xianxia explained, that's why I was so angry when I saw him at the party as her boyfriend.
Scumbag. Mushi exclaimed in realization.
No wonder you were so surprised to see him yesterday. The look in your eyes was weird, as if you were very angry. Xianxia said, I've seen Gao Nan's flirtatious behavior. He did have feelings for me before. Yesterday though, I saw what true shamelessness is. All right. Sure. Let's not be angry anymore. The truth will come out sooner or later.
Okay.
Xiaoxue heard about the production team of Extreme Youth and drove there. She asked several staff members, but all of them thought that she was a die-hard fan of Xianxia and refused to let her in. She braced herself and explained, the female lead, Xianxia, is my best friend. I have something to ask her, so I'm here to visit her on set. The staff member looked her up and down and smiled disdainfully. Young lady, don't talk nonsense with me. I've seen plenty of die-hard fans like you who claim to be a celebrity's family member. I've been in this line for so long, so I've seen my fair share of things. What bestie? What friend? There were even those who claimed to be lovers. Why don't you come up with a better excuse? Xiaoxue was at a loss for words, somewhat annoyed by his contemptuous tone. Who are you calling a die-hard fan? I've always been a rational fan of celebrities, okay? Xianxia is my best friend. Why would I lie to you? Mushi happened to pass by and saw this scene. When she heard a woman claiming to be Xianxia's best friend, she could not help but curiously look in the direction of the voice. She saw a fashionably dressed woman standing at the entrance of the sentry booth, arguing with the guard. She immediately walked over, only to hear the guard say mercilessly, Enough! Who doesn't know that you're trying to sneak into the crew and get close to your idol? Get out of here. Otherwise, I'll ask the security to kick you out.
You!
Wait. Mushi called out. The two men looked at her. Mushi walked over and sized her up. She felt that this woman looked familiar and suddenly asked, Are you Xiaoxia's friend? Xiaoxue quickly nodded. She gave him a friendly smile. I'm Xiaoxia's assistant. If you're Xiaoxia's friend, you should have her private number, right? Although she claimed to be Xiaoxia's friend, she still wanted to verify it just to be safe. Xiaoxue immediately nodded. Yes, I do. I'll show you. She immediately took out her phone, found Xiaoxia's private number, and passed it to her. Mushi knew Xiaoxia's private number by heart.
She glanced at it and instantly smiled. She turned to the guard and said, "Boss, I'm sorry, but this is really Xiaxia's friend." Xiao Shui then raised her head self-righteously. The guard was instantly embarrassed and could not get out of the situation, so he apologized. Xiao Shui ignored him. Chapter 2600. She asked, "Why are you looking for her?" "Yes. Firstly, it's to visit her at work. Secondly, it's indeed an urgent matter." "Yes, I can bring you to her lounge, but she's currently filming, so you might have to wait for her for a while." She immediately waved her hand. "It's fine. I'll wait for her for a while. Thank you for helping me out." Mushi smiled and chided her for her politeness. "It's nothing. You're Xiaxia's friend, after all. Xiaxia is an artiste under my charge, so this is what I should do." Xiao Shui also smiled politely. Suddenly, she thought of something and looked around. Then she lowered her voice and asked, "Is Xiaxia in a bad mood today?" On the way there, her heart was beating like a drum, worried that Xiaxia would be angry with her. Xiaxia was her best friend, from her classmates to her best friend who shared everything with her. In her heart, Xiaxia was definitely very considerate as a friend. Even though she was not good at expressing herself, whenever she was with her, she would always talk about her troubles, while she would sit patiently by the side with a gentle face and listen to her talk. Still, she rarely listened to her talk about her troubles. Xiaxia had never interfered with her private affairs, but she had probably thought about it for a long time and hesitated for a long time before confiding in her with such heartfelt words. Alas, her response was terrible. At that time, Xiao Shui could not accept the truth and fled the cafe in a sorry state, not caring about her feelings at all. She must be furious and very disappointed with her. Everything she said was for her own good and did not have any intention of sowing discord between them, yet she stubbornly stuck to her own course until she heard those cruel words from Gao Nan's mouth. Only then did she believe that she was telling the truth. Xiao Shui was full of regret and was worried that her friend would be angry with her and ignore her forever. Mushi was stunned when she heard this and frowned. "How do you know that she's in a bad mood? Did she tell you?" Xiao Shui's heart skipped a beat as she suddenly became nervous. "She must be very angry?" Mushi thought that her friend was referring to Ji Yan and guessed that Xiaxia must have complained to her in private, so she nodded. "Yes. She came to the set today and threw a tantrum. It was the first time I had seen her so out of control. Usually, when she speaks to anyone on set, she's always gentle. She rarely loses control like this." Xiao Shui furrowed her brows, feeling extremely uncomfortable. She must have made her angry last night. Could it be that her anger still hadn't subsided after one night? Was that why she still couldn't control her emotions when she arrived on set? However, after thinking about it, it was only natural. After all, she knew that she meant a lot to Yun Xiaxia. As a friend, she must be very angry that she left so irresponsibly last night. "It's all my fault. I made her angry." Xiao Shui bit her lips in self-blame. Mushi was surprised. "How can that be? Her anger should have nothing to do with you, right?" "Huh." Xiao Shui looked at her in surprise. "Then why is she angry?" Mushi looked at her with a conflicted expression, seemingly having some concerns. Chapter 2601. "All right." Mushi let down her guard. "I see that you're close to Xiaxia, so there's no harm in telling you about it." Xiao Shui was all ears. The assistant then summarized the matter concisely. 2 nights ago, an artiste named Ji Yan was celebrating her birthday and invited the whole crew to a party. At the party, Ji Yan appeared with a man on her arm. Xiaxia's expression was a little strange at that time. Later, I found out that she recognized the man at a glance. She said that the man was her best friend's boyfriend. Isn't it obvious that she's cheating on her? Throughout the entire party, her expression didn't look right. Later, when I was drunk, Xiaxia sent me to the washroom. I was so drunk that I couldn't remember what happened. I only know that when I came out of the washroom, I saw Hua Jin and that man fighting. Later, Xiaxia said that the man followed them to the washroom and deliberately humiliated her and her friend. That's why the two got into a fight. Hua Jin rushed to protect Xiaxia and fought with the man. Xiao Shui was shocked. She suddenly felt a tearing pain in her heart. Apparently, the assistant did not notice the unusual reaction on her face as she continued. This morning, Ji Yan spread rumors in the production team that Unforgettable had seduced Gao Nan in order to climb up his social ladder for the female lead role. Xianxia was so angry that she lost her temper on the spot. Xiao Shui lowered her head in regret.
Mu Shi continued.
Xianxia said that Gao Nan is a jerk who let her best friend down, but she didn't expect Ji Yan to put the blame on her. I almost exploded with anger when I heard it.
How could Xianxia do such a thing?
Even if it's for the sake of resources, she has plenty of them. So why would she lower herself?
She won't do that.
Xiao Shui said solemnly. I know her character. Not to mention that she doesn't lack support now. Even if she had nothing, she wouldn't do such a thing.
That's right.
She replied agitatedly. You're so good to Xianxia for you to trust her so much. Xiao Shui's lips suddenly twitched, and her eyes turned red. She lowered her eyes, and a tear rolled down her cheek. She said sadly, I don't deserve to be her good friend. Ah? She asked in surprise. Why do you say that? Because, Xiao Shui held back her tears and said, Xianxia was slandered because she defended me. I'm the one who implicated her. Mu Shi did not react to this at first, but after giving it some thought, she suddenly realized something and her face turned solemn. Don't tell me that Gao Nan is your boyfriend? Not anymore. Xiao Shui immediately said. Last night, I broke up with him. His visit to the set this time was to apologize to her face to face. Still, I'm afraid that Xianxia won't forgive me. Mu Shi's gaze turned complicated when she heard this. She suddenly smiled bitterly. How is that possible? Xianxia is so gentle. Why would she be angry with you? She's the most gentle person I've ever met.
Don't worry. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Chapter 2602.
A group of people was frantically coaxing Ji Yan. Ji Yan, don't be sad. Xianxia's words are clearly targeted at you. Don't be sad, though. I'll secretly make things difficult for her in the future. The person who said this was the stylist. There were many hidden rules in the production team. Although the makeup artist, stylist and costume designer had a clear division of labor in the crew, even though they didn't have a high status, if they didn't like an artist, they would use some underhanded means. For example, the makeup artist would deliberately make the artiste ugly. For example, the stylist would mess up the artiste's hairstyle. For example, the costume designer would hide an imperceptible needle in the collar and soles of the shoes. When the artiste put on the clothes without noticing, the artiste would often be pricked until blood flowed out, but they would not be able to find the needle. Mu Shi, who was standing at a distance, could not help but be furious when she heard this. Just now, there was a scene between Unforgettable and Ji Yan on set. Ji Yan, who seemed to be affected by something, was in a very bad state during the scene. Unforgettable once again lost her temper on the spot and scolded her harshly. At that time, Mu Shi happened to be on set, and when she saw this scene, her heart was filled with anger. She had never seen Unforgettable so strong-willed to scold Ji Yan in front of so many crew members. She was probably complaining about the injustice of her good friend being cheated on, so she deliberately seized this opportunity to make things difficult for Ji Yan. Have you read the script? Have you memorized all the lines? Everyone's time is precious. Although you're a newbie, as an actress, you must have a sense of professionalism. You're not familiar with your lines, your expression is wrong, and your positioning is wrong. Everything you make is reasonable, but what about the fact that so many people in the production team's time was delayed because of you? Ji Yan, that's just acting. No matter how much negative energy you have in your life, you shouldn't bring it to the production team. Look at what kind of a mess you're putting on. You're wasting my time. With Unforgettable high status in the production team, Ji Yan was suppressed to the point that she could not refute. No one, including the director, tried to stop him. The cameraman, in particular, had a hard time holding up the microphone and had several NGs in a row. They had long been dissatisfied with Ji Yan, but they couldn't say anything about it. After all, Ji Yan had landed in the cast out of nowhere because of the support of a sugar daddy. Who would go against the investors? But Unforgettable was different. In terms of background, Unforgettable was definitely not afraid of Ji Yan. As soon as Ji Yan returned to the lounge, she complained to a few staff members who were on her side. Everyone felt indignant for her. They all felt that Unforgettable had gone too far. Coupled with Ji Yan's embellishment, everyone was resentful of Unforgettable actions. Mu Shi could not take it anymore.
She stepped forward and snorted. What are you doing?
How old were they already?
Why were they still imitating primary school students and starting a small group in class? It was not childish at all. Ji Yan, I'm sorry to have wronged you. Your acting skills are as bad as a pile of sh*t, yet you've been scolded. Is that why you're here to fan the flames? What are you talking about?
This has nothing to do with you. Get lost.
Shi sneered. How can it have nothing to do with me? I heard that some people are trying to make things difficult for the artiste I'm in charge of. How can it have nothing to do with me? Chapter 2603. Feeling guilty, the person immediately defended herself.
Why are you staring at me?
Why? Are you feeling guilty? If you have the guts to say so, why can't you admit it?
Admit what?
The person snorted contemptuously. Are you trying to slander me and make things difficult for your artist? What evidence do you have?
Shi shrugged nonchalantly and said in an extremely tough manner, I don't need any evidence.
With Xianxia's authority in the production team, she can totally ban you. Let's not talk about this production team. Just based on your behavior and nonsense in the production team, let's see which production team dares to sign you in the future. That person instantly lost her confidence when she heard that. Not to be outdone, Ji Yan's assistant mocked. Humph. You're just a dog relying on its master's power. Xianxia frowned, thinking that the assistant was about to explode, but the latter retorted indifferently. He. Even a dog had to follow the right master. I'm just afraid that some dog slaves will follow the wrong master and end up with no food to eat.
What about me?
I'm scolding you. Dog slave.
Enough.
Unable to take it anymore, Ji Yan finally lost her temper.
Is that enough?
Stop arguing.
I'm already in a bad enough mood.
Ji Yan, you're so pretty. You don't have to worry about not being popular. Xianxia is popular now, but it's only for a while. With such a character, if the paparazzi expose her as a third party in your relationship, won't her popularity plummet?
Xianxia could not hold it in anymore.
What are you talking about?
Watch your mouth.
That person was instantly enraged when she heard that. Seeing that Xianxia was unfamiliar, she thought that she was a pushover and snorted. Who the hell are you? Did I speak to you? Xianxia, however, was never a pushover. She immediately walked up to her and gave her a slap.
Bam!
The person was slapped to the ground with a red face. I already told you to watch your mouth, yet you still want to test my patience?
Who am I?
Is it your place to ask? I don't know who you are to put on such an overbearing attitude. Who are you trying to scare?
She almost could not help but clap her hands in joy.
That's great. He didn't expect Xianxia to have such a loyal friend. Ji Yan was stunned by the sight. Xianxia continued, Xianxia is the third party? What a joke. She interfered in a relationship? Who did she interfere with? She seduced my man last night. If she's not a third party, then what is she? Everyone in the crew saw it with their own eyes. There's no need for you to clear her name. Ji Yan, if we're talking about the third party, aren't you the real one here? You still have the face to say that Xianxia is a third party? For a man like that, even if he were to kneel on the ground, Xianxia wouldn't even look at him. Ji Yan's face instantly turned pale. What did you say? I say, you are the real third party. Gao Nan already had a girlfriend, and they had been dating for a long time. You're the third party. Do you know that?
Ji Yan's lips trembled for a while.
Don't talk nonsense. Chapter 2604. Ji Yan turned pale with fright and looked at her in disbelief, only to hear her friend continue casually. Still, after I found out that he's a playboy, I broke up with him last night. You can be with him legitimately. After all, what's the saying? A B*tch and a dog will be together forever. Nonsense. Ji Yan's assistant cursed. Where the hell did you come from? Believe it or not, it's up to you. Anyway, I've officially broken up with Gao Nan. From now on, he and I have nothing to do with each other. Still, I won't allow you to humiliate Xianxia like this. She went to seduce Gao Nan? Ha! Is Gao Nan even worthy? Xianxia is so outstanding. Do you think she'll lower herself to be with that B****? Dream on. I think it's Gao Nan who's pestering Xianxia.
Ji Yan, you should take care of your man and not indulge him in his estrus. Her words were clearly meant to humiliate her. Take care of my man? Isn't she calling Gao Nan a dog? If Gao Nan is a dog, then what am I? A dog. Ji Yan's face turned ashen with anger. You don't spread rumors. Xiao Shui sneered. Your whole family will die for spreading rumors. How vicious. The few people standing at the side were also stunned. None of them expected the situation to develop like this, let alone the emergence of Gao Nan's real ex-girlfriend. They did not know who was telling the truth and who was making things difficult for them, so they were all at a loss. Xiao Shui pulled Muxi back and said coldly, don't stoop to their level. Let's go to Shusher's lounge and wait for her. Ji Yan's assistant could not take it anymore and stepped forward to block her path. Don't go. If you have something to say it clearly. A good dog doesn't block the way. Get lost. Xiao Shui pushed her away. Muxi was so excited that she followed closely behind her friend. When they were far away, she did not forget to make faces and stick out her tongue at Ji Yan and the rest. Ji Yan was trembling with anger. The people around them, however, did not dare to make a sound. Now that they felt that the truth of the matter was getting more and more confusing, they decided to be conservative and not take sides. Xiao Shui followed Muxi into the lounge. After what happened just now, the two of them became closer. Muxi and Xiao Shui talked about many things, such as how Xianxia took care of her at work. Xiao Shui also talked to her about the interesting anecdotes between her and Xianxia during their university days. Not long after, Xianxia finished her scenes and returned to the waiting room. When she pushed open the door, she was stunned to see Xiao Shui chatting with her assistant on the sofa. Snow. She looked at her blankly. Why are you here? As soon as Xiao Shui saw her, she stood up from her seat. When she saw her, her eyes turned red. She immediately walked up and looked at her silently with red eyes. However, she was full of grievances and guilt. On the way here, she had prepared so many things, but when she saw her face to face, her mind went blank and she didn't know what to say for a moment. She had a lot of grievances that she wanted to pour out. There was a lot of guilt that he wanted to talk about. However, when the words reached her throat, they got stuck and she choked on her sobs. Sure. Don't be angry with me, okay? After holding it in for a long time, Xiao Shui guiltily squeezed out these words. With tears in her eyes, she said, You must be very sad that I left without saying goodbye last night. Chapter 2605. So, you came all the way here just to apologize to me? Xiao Shui nodded fervently and said solemnly, Sure, I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? Silly girl, why should I be angry with you? Xianxia's lips curled into a faint smile as she helplessly explained, I'm not angry with you, I just feel wronged for you. What I said last night was merely a piece of advice from a friend. It's understandable that you couldn't accept it at the moment. After all, I can tell that you're deeply involved in this relationship. When I said that the man you love cheated on another woman and listed all his misdeeds, you couldn't accept it and ran away at the last minute just to protect yourself from getting hurt. Xiao Shui's eyes reddened as her tears fell even more fiercely. Why did you say that? She complained. I'd rather you scold me harshly. That way, I'll feel better. But why was I so insensible and made you angry? Yet you're so magnanimous to say that you're not angry with me. Sure, why are you so nice to me? Xiao Shui's pretense of stubbornness crumbled at once. She hugged Xianxia tightly as tears streamed down her face. Sure, I hate you the most. You're clearly younger than me, but you're always so mature and tolerant of my mistakes. You can scold me, but I'd rather you scold me. It's best if you scold me until I wake up. Scold me for being blind and muddle-headed. All right. Xianxia suddenly raised her hand and gently caressed the back of her head. Like a mature and steady man, she gently comforted Xiao Shui like a lover. Even Muxi, who was watching from the side, could not help but feel that the current Xianxia was full of boy-friendliness and actually made people feel a sense of security. Xiao Shui cried even harder after being comforted by her. Tears kept falling from her eyes and down her cheeks. She could no longer suppress the sadness in her heart. Releasing all her feelings of loss and pain, she cried wantonly. Ever since she had hardened her heart and cut off all ties with that man last night, she had pretended to be calm when she returned home. However, for the entire night, the rain continued to fall outside the window.
Her heart was also cloudy. She covered herself with a blanket and cried for a long time until she was tired. Only then did she fall into a deep sleep. She wanted to pull herself together and completely throw Gao Nan to the back of her mind, but how could she forget about this relationship so easily? Hence, she pretended to be carefree and nonchalant about it. However, under Yun Shishi's gentle coaxing, she could no longer hide her grievances. After crying for a long time, Xiao Shui's emotions finally stabilized. It was only after Yun Shishi asked that she learned that she had cut the Gordian knot and broken up with Gao Nan last night. Although she didn't explicitly state it, the slap she gave him showed her resolute attitude. Gao Nan did not call her again, either. After all, he did not have any feelings for her and was just going through the motions. Like he said, it was really not easy to find a marriage partner whom his parents were satisfied with. He only wanted to be with her because of this. Xiao Shui had completely given up on him.